I think we're live.
We're live. Give it a couple minutes. Not a couple minutes. Let's give it 3 hours for the audio to sync up.
Can you guys hear us? Yes, no, maybe so. No one is...
Nobody. Why would anybody be in here?
There already was. There was 100 people there to begin with.
There's nobody here.
Oh, there we go.
I'm just talking to myself tonight. It's just me talking to you for 2 hours.
All right. Can you guys all hear us? Yes, I will give you a B58. Can you guys hear us, yes or no? And is our audio synced? Mark, you want to give them an audio check?
It's not going to be perfectly synced. This is the internet.
All right.
We're not doing live
We don't, and you guys
broadcast.
can properly hear us, correct? Because we've had audio problems in the past.
Well, don't worry about it.
Shinface will be in there moderating somewhere.
As long as you can hear us, it doesn't
All right.
matter if it's in
He
sync.
says it's good.
Good enough to start. Welcome everybody. I'm going to take my glasses off because
We can't look the same.
yeah, I don't want to look like I have glass. Yeah, I have
Look like a nerd who's got 4 eyes.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. I remember when I got made fun of in preschool for wearing glasses.
When did you actually start wearing glasses?
I started wearing glasses in 2nd grade, and everybody made fun of me because my prescription was so weak that they thought I was wearing like fake glasses to look
Because
smart.
they were that.
I
thick.
don't know. The kids made fun of me because I was wearing glasses because they thought it was fake. And I'm like, why would I wear, even at that age, like, why would you they're not smart enough to want to be smarter. Anyway, I never stopped wearing glasses because now I realized it does make me look significantly smarter.
And you don't need them anymore, though. Right? That's
Oh,
why you
no,
wear.
my
Yeah.
eyes are just completely cleared up with age. I'm just,
Big brain move. All right. So, what topics are we going to cover, Mark? You have some topics you want to go through.
first off, I'd like to say hello to everybody. You know, you act like this is a one-way conversation here. Let's talk to the people. That's
Hello.
what they're here for. Hello. Okay, now let's get, what are we saying? I hope everybody's doing good. Thanks for coming on here. And if you're somebody that's watching this after the fact,
You failed me for not showing up on time. I'm hurt. I want you to know that. I'm
Yeah.
speaking to you directly.
I don't know how people couldn't just spend 2 or 3 hours of their
Your
life. all
family
night.
or listening to two men in the Midwest talk about cars?
Yeah, they work all day, right?
Yeah.
Or barely work, and then they have all these other things they could be doing, and they're sitting here listening to this. So thank you for coming on. We're going to deliver something very special for you tonight. We have some big announcements to make. Jack, what is it?
We are going to continue to do these more frequently as promised.
That's a big
announcement.
There is no big announcement. So we're going to get through some Patreon questions. We're going to answer everybody's questions here. Of course, the super chat is...
We have some projects we're doing too.
Yeah, okay. What is it, Porsches?
Let
BMW?
me bring up the first project we're doing. It is a Porsche project. We just finished filming it. Montai, the racing arm of Porsche, flew all the way up from Germany to support a back-to-back test. I knew very little about Montai prior to this. They came out. They sent 3 people. 2 people from Porsche came out. We walked through some of the engineering of their kit, and then we drove 2 cars back-to-back, one with and one without the Montai kit on a GT4 RS. So that was interesting. We're finally going to shoot our Type R versus GR Corolla video next week, and we're shooting a non-your Type R, a press car Type R versus an Elantra N dual clutch at the track. What else do we have? We have a C706 video on the way. We have a ZR1 video that will come out sometime between now and launch. What the hell else do we have? We have a Vantage versus Turbo video. We have a Lotus Carlton coming along. You are going to shoot an update video on your Pilot.
Yes, of course.
We'll be driving, or I'll be driving the new Civic Si in about a day or 2. New being mid-cycle refreshed. We're doing a 2-row non-premium CUV comparison, which I know is real exciting to everybody, but CRV, RAV4, Tiguan, Santa Fe, as you like to call it, and what's that other one I'm thinking of? CX-50.
Yeah, CX-50, and what else you got? Isn't there others?
Oh, man, we have a couple of, we have a How the Gravity Was Made series coming out in, December is when you're going to start releasing those videos, Mark?
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of the goal of that. I don't know, whatever. I can't show anybody anything around here. But look, you could just see some thumbnails. Hey, check out the thumbnails.
Good job. Good
Anyway,
job.
screen sharing's over. Anyway, I was going to show you some pictures, but I'm not getting that fancy.
What else do we have? We are doing an S2000 send-off video. We have some K cars. Yeah, you were like, oh man, let's do some S2000 send-offs. Not send-offs, sorry, anniversary video.
How's that going to happen?
I have no idea. Maybe next year at this rate. But
Yeah,
we're supposed to shoot one, allegedly. What else are we doing?
I feel like we're running out of time to do everything because, as you know, if you ever...
Winter is coming.
Yeah. Isn't that a line from some show?
Yeah, the Muppets.
Oh, the Muppets Take Manhattan. Yeah. So the end of October, we're done. I mean, it's been warmer historically. Now we're getting
Yeah, we might get a little further.
But I mean, really, anything that's fun is going to be dead in November.
Yeah, we'll be just down to travel. I know we're supposed to travel out to Atlanta to do a 918 video, which is another Porsche, which I know is real exciting for you.
I'd like you want to see Jack's travel itinerary. Look at we should share out
GM
the
and
calendar.
Porsche
Yeah.
and it's Honda stuff now.
Yeah.
Oh, we are driving the Toyota GR Corolla dual clutch. Sorry, not dual clutch, automatic. It's not a dual clutch. Where Akio Toyota is going to tell me how he built another hotel because this is his favorite car. What was that video where he goes, "This is my favorite car"?
Is the
Lexus
LQBG? What is it?
I don't know.
LBX. LBX. Yeah, the Lexus LBX, which is a Corolla with an automatic. I'm sorry, it's not an automatic. It's a direct shift automatic, so it's totally different. So yeah.
But we're going to ask him how it's different, and then they're not going to know because it's Toyota USA.
No, they're going to tell you. The chief engineer is going to be there.
He'll run away from me.
He is actually.
Oh, is he actually going to be there?
So they have whenever the Japanese come to press trips for Toyota, they have one of the best translators.
Yes, they do.
For a Japanese brand in America. He's amazing. He was there for Supra.
Is Toyota actually going to give us access to the engineer?
Yeah, I complained about it. And I did get an answer back.
Was it?
It was all in caps. It was all in caps. Like, we got you covered, pal. Yeah, so he will be there.
If our Toyota reps are watching, I love you.
Yeah, we got some other Toyota stuff. I got a Toyota video coming out next week, which is a Tech Wednesday video, which I've been doing a lot of work on in the back end.
Yeah, you went all the way out to Michigan, which
yeah.
is not that far to be fair, but you went out to Michigan and
Yeah, this one it's an embargo thing, so I can't really say much about it. But it's about technology that Toyota's been working on.
you filmed it in a bathtub with Akio?
Yeah, it was just in a bathtub. He flew in and he's just like, "Hey, man."
Get in the bubble bath.
Yeah, he's like, "Get in the bubble bath. I'm going to show you some new technology." I don't want to continue this train of thought, but needless to say, there was no shark in the water, but I did take a look inside cars, and there's some really cool...
You played with tummy swords, is that what you're saying?
No, it was not that. Jack has taken this,
We do have a Land Cruiser video, Pointless Exception. We film that next week. Sorry, I saw that in the comments.
Can I finish my
Yeah,
thought?
yeah, all right, finish your thought. I apologize.
I don't even know what I was saying now. Anyway, that's coming out next week. Don't worry about it. You'll see it when it comes out. It's tech related. It's kind of cool stuff they're doing, and I got to talk to the engineers, Toyota Connected engineers and Toyota North American engineers that headed up this project. It wasn't from Japan, so it's kind of neat. Anyway, what else you got going on, Jack?
I'm trying to think.
You're on tropical time now, by the way.
I see that. I'm on Spotted Cow time, but we're not paid by Spotted Cow, so I'm flipping the logo.
Oh, should we
the
get
other way.
over the sponsor for this video?
Oh, yes, something I will bring up on a...
Oh, yeah, I was going to make a joke, but
I'll make a joke
there's
for-
no sponsor for this video, but there kind of is.
I will say, we finally did a Camaro SS 1LE video. None of you guys watched, but we we did make that video finally. And I will say this: Nathan from Auto Tempest, he's the owner of Auto Tempest, sponsored the video where it's actually fiscally possible after doing everything. So, huge shout out to Nathan, and he's hopefully going to sponsor some other used car videos. I'll bring them up again later, but do genuinely between the Camaro SS 1LE video and your favorite Nissan Murano Cross Cab video, he has helped us in some of these obscure, weird used car videos.
Yeah, we're trying to do more used stuff. Obviously, the Nissan Murano has nothing to do with that, but I mean, if the way to do this going forward, surviving some of this,
is corporate integrations.
we have to. And some of the used cars make it more difficult because you can't just pull them out of a hat. Like the press cars are fine, but right now I think we're in a period of time where people are really getting tired of new cars. Oh, that's one thing to talk about before we get to
Oh, and the GR Corolla too.
The GR Corolla. Yeah.
We're doing the GR Corolla build series, which we're finally gonna.
That's true.
You have like an hour and a half of interviews and I made the most complicated high versus low GR Corolla video in the world. You got Limit Plus One getting interviewed. You the guy from Grant from Annex. Annex, great company. You have Wyatt from MCS talking about MCS stampers. Jeff helped out from Essex Big Brakes. You have Graham from Boosted Performance and Limit Plus One, their in-house tuner, talking about engine tuning. So if you want to learn a lot about a 3-cylinder hatchback that costs too much money, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn real good.
Jack spent, how much is this build?
It's honestly, and Chicago
Maybe
Auto Pros.
if it was completely out of pocket,
Oh,
what
it
would
would be
built?
probably more than half the price of the car in
Like,
parts.
what's the total amount?
I think it's a little less than $20,000 on hard parts. And then, to be fair, the wrap part is the wrap, so probably another $8,000. I got the car re-wrapped because the wrap was basically ruined from all the track stuff. It's now got a PPF vinyl wrap, which is a lighter green, which you like better. I like
It's the
worse.
Aston Martin green.
Yeah, basically. And I think the wrap is like $8,000. So there's probably $30,000 worth of parts on this Corolla.
So
and
the
one of
total-
you guys will be buying it hopefully one day.
Total price of the car with all the modifications, what is it?
I think the car is probably like 70 G's.
Okay, so I think I said this last time. So Jack did all this, and here's the thing: I edited all the videos. So Jack's like, "Oh, I want to do this series," and I looked in the folder. He's like, "Oh, why don't you edit that video?" And I looked in the folder. I'm like, "No, it's gonna take me like 2 weeks to edit the video because there's so much shit in it." So anyway, that's a really cool video if you want to learn a lot of stuff about the GR Corolla. Plus, Jack is going to be going to. I'm probably not going to that one.
The Corolla one?
The Corolla one. The minivan actually is more important. I'll be honest.
No, I agree.
So anyway, Jack's going to do all this stuff, and you're going to learn a lot about the Corolla, and then I'm going to take the Type R, because I'm getting wheels and tires put on it now, alignment, and then I'm going to race you.
Next week. Aren't we doing that next week?
If the car's done, yeah. I mean, that's going to be a tight time frame. What day is that?
Tuesday.
That ain't happening.
That's fine.
All right, there's no way that's happening by Tuesday. There's no way I'm going to have brake pads.
At least we
brake
can shoot
fluid
the
and all
B-roll of both of the cars together.
that. True, yeah.
The hell else is there anything else that you are thinking about that we're doing on the background, project-wise?
Nothing that's that exciting to talk about that's going to burn any more people's time. Anyway, so if there's cars that you want to see on the used side, because again, the new cars are boring
Careful
people.
going over 85 miles an hour. I can't drive over 85 because the tires are not rated for it in my car. Will catch fire. Is that what you want me to ask the chief engineer?
Yeah, it's like, hey, that guy is not going to know anything by what you just said.
No, I know.
He doesn't have no idea. Like, hey, what do you think? He'll be, huh? He'll be like the chief engineer of Civic Type R when we're asking him questions. When you look like you wanted to put a bullet in his head after talking to us for 5 minutes.
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess, is there anything else sort of project-wise that these guys need to know that's sort of in the pipe works that we haven't talked about?
Let me try to finish my point. We're trying to get into more used cars.
Yes.
Hence the Auto Tempest integrations of helping us do the used car stuff because people are very tired of new cars. I went to a car show thing for Car Supplies Warehouse. So Jason from Chicago Auto Pros used to own Chicago Auto Pros. He's no longer an owner in that company, and he's doing Car Supplies Warehouse. So we had a meet, and I talked to, a couple dozen viewers that were there, including Car Care Nut, who's local to us, which a lot of people watch his stuff now. So between talking to everybody, I couldn't believe, I don't know if it was just that small subset of people or if this is indicative of a lot of people now. They're so tired of new cars. They can't stand the price. They can't stand the styling. They don't care about the technology or the complication. And people are showing me all these old pictures and like, why can't cars be like this? Show us old cars, stuff we can afford, stuff we can fix. And I think that's a growing sentiment. I understand why, but from a content creation standpoint, I don't know how and what you pick to do as a used car, that people are going to watch. I see used cars on the road all the time. I saw like a Pontiac Vibe today, and I know that's got like a huge following. It's ridiculous. Like, I understand why. People are like, well, can you do a Matrix? Can you do a Vibe? Can you do something that I can get for next to nothing and will run forever? I'm like, where do you find that? Like, how do you do that?
And what do you pick from a viewership perspective? I know Guff from Albon wants us to do an FD-RX-7, which I know is expensive, but that'll be fun. I'd love to do an 8th Gen SI. The car I own, the car you've spent time with. I know Scott from King Motorsports has a crazy one, but I think that'd be a great sort of dive into that generation of Honda product. Yeah. Oh, speaking of, we have an Ioniq 5N video that we're going to be shooting at the end of the month. and we have an RS5 video, which is our Friday video that's coming along as well, correct? As you have a giant Rice Krispies treat in your mouth. I did talk to, on a social note, I did talk to Autobahn. If you are in the Midwest, we are going to do a season opener next year. Well, we're going to do a track day probably on South, to be honest, because it makes sense with our leaderboard. Will be a track day and car show at Autobahn. We'll host you guys out there. It'll be pretty straightforward. We'll do our best to hang out with all of you guys and run some laps with you as well. I'll figure out the specifics over the winter. We'll probably have a 2 or 3 month leadway as far as signups go. I imagine we'll fill up pretty quick. But it should be a fun little event to do out here. And we've been wanting to do this for a long time. And instead of getting 1,000 different outlets involved, it'll just probably be us and some of our local friends.
Yeah,
put
to
this
see
together.
how it goes.
Yeah, to see how it goes.
It's so complicated. There's so many moving pieces with it, and they really can't house that many people.
No.
You know, they can't have that many people there.
I think the track day itself will probably be capped at around maybe, I think it's 120 or 115.
Yeah, like a normal track day thing.
And then there'll be a car show thing happening at the same time.
The last time we did it, we were supposed to do karting, and it was so busy that we couldn't even do karting.
Yeah.
It was like frustrating. So there's no point of like overdoing it with trying to make it so big in terms of scope. Although ideally, on paper, it looks like that would be way better for people, but people are there.
In the future, we'd love to do north and south at the same time to get as many people on track as possible, but that's a problem for another day.
Yeah, true. Somebody asked, I saw this multiple times about the LC. I keep telling people that I sold it a long time ago, so that I'm just answering that question again. Somebody was asking about the LC Vinyl Edition. We've heard nothing about it. We've been told that it's possible that there was going to be a final edition, a higher performance version, but
4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago, and I have yet to see anything about it. My guess is they will, because it's just a closeout car for the Halo thing. There is like a Lexus supercar coming, in no uncertain terms. That's for sure. I don't know what it's going to be called. I don't know what it is, but it will be expensive. So that's coming. They might have killed off the LC500 for that. Not sure, the final edition. So we'll see. So I just wanted to answer that. Now, let's talk turkey. What are we here for?
We are here to answer about 1,000 questions off Patreon and from you guys.
Okay.
If you have any channel-related questions as well, pop them into the chat. I'll do our best to answer them. First question from a Patreon, Mark, and this is a question I ask you all the time. This is from Ryan. Are you going to buy an iPhone finally?
No. No, I'm not. I have too much invested over the past 10 years of apps and stuff that I use, and I don't want to rebuy it. I mean, the main thing with the iPhone and Android debate is it's more of a moot point now because they've become so similar in their approach. Like even iPhone's trying to do more customization, and now I saw some video. What's that? Justine, that girl who's a big iPhone shill, or not shill, but fan girl.
Yeah, person.
Yeah, she was showing off the new iPhone with a shutter button on it. You can double click the shutter button and it turns on the camera. I mean, that's shit that the Android phones did 20 years ago. I mean, it's always this thing of they're trying to mirror each other so much that there's no point of other than you always talk about stability.
Yep.
I mean, I guess you could argue the stability is there and updates are better, but I don't know. I just don't care anymore.
Do you think this is from one of our Patreons? Do you think there will be an affordable hybrid sports car option, or are they going to be exclusively for supercars?
For what?
Hybrid drivetrains for sports cars. Do you think it'll exclusively be for supercars?
No, I mean, isn't the new Prelude trying to do that?
It's not really a sports car.
No, but I mean that type of thing, hybridized, internal combustion hybridized as a performance adder versus a turbo.
For stuff sold outside of the United States, if you want high performance internal combustion engines purely due to emissions, they're going to have to be hybridized. In fact, basically, even my beloved B58 is a hybrid drivetrain now. It's a mild hybrid, but
yeah, and there's supposedly more. I mean, I don't know the truth of this. I don't want to mislead, but supposedly there's far more issues now with the hybrid B58, the mild hybrid B58, because of some of the issues with the hybrid system. I don't know how true that is. I've been seeing more and more stuff.
Me.
Again, those are growing pains, and somebody mentioned something about the brake system, the Continental supplier issue. with the electronics and the brake-by-wire. The big recall, it's like 1.2 million units, and it's all cars between 22 and 24 that have a component failure in electronics, and they're trying to reflash over the air the ECU to pick up on a voltage change from the brake system to detect a fluctuation and earmark the car to throw in air before the system completely fails. Because when it goes into fail-safe mode, you can push the pedal through.
So it's
but
like the Bosch setup too.
Yeah, but it's not really like real braking because you have to push so hard into the pedal to get like hydraulic braking pressure, so it's not natural. But at least there's a redundancy there. But yeah, I mean, you know, like every recall, they're like, it's not going to affect anybody, but you know, it's a big recall. But anyway,
Because GM and Porsche use Bosch, BMW uses Conti.
yeah.
Interesting.
On certain models.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's every single model, but yeah, the recall's on the Continental one.
This is from Kenneth. I already know the answer. You're going to say the same thing. Which would you say currently is the best overall American-built full-size pickup truck? F-150.
Yeah, F-150. They got the most money. That doesn't mean it's better, but generally their best people are working on it.
Michael, one of our patrons, asked, having watched your CT4V Blackwing video too many times, I bought a manual and plan to attend the half-day driver academy at Autobahn. This is more generic, I guess, to track days. What is the wear consumables that I can expect after taking these classes? Tires and brakes, basically, right?
Yeah, it depends on which one you do. And
But any track day, what are the things you're going to wear?
Yeah, track day, you're going to obliterate your tires and you're going to really do some damage to your brake pads. It depends on how you brake. You know, like if you're a novice and
You'll be easier on your consumables.
well, not necessarily. You could be harder on the brakes. If you have stability control on, you could cook your brakes. And if you're riding the brake into brake zones versus just braking all at once, you know, if you're constantly like braking 2 miles before the brake markers and dragging them, you could really heat up the brakes that way. So just be prepared. Fluid is absolutely the number one thing because that's the first thing that gets cooked is if your car's running like a .3, it won't hold up to that heat. So you got to change that out. Typically, if you do a good fluid, you won't boil it unless your brake system really blows. So have your fluid done. You can probably run a stock pad, but maybe for like a lap or two, just be prepared. You should do pads.
It depends on the car.
Very much, and the driver.
So a couple of the people brought up that they think the F-150 feels cheap. I mean, we've driven, to be fair, we're not really truck people per se. We get a lot of them as press cars, and I can't tell you what they're like from towing from a long period of time, but I do think, you know, someone says GM makes the best trucks. At least from a livability perspective, just riding in them, I don't know what they're like, and we've talked about this all the time from a reviewer perspective. We don't live with these things for, you know, more than a week at a time.
Yeah.
So I can't speak about long-term reliability, but at least from a ride and like general dynamics perspective, I think the F-150s drive better than the GM vehicles.
This is a debate where we're honestly outclassed. We know the people the engineers that design these.
Mm-hmm.
We've driven all of them. We've never lived with them.
Nope.
So
I'm not a truck person.
On the surface, in terms of like what the body structures are, how they drive, again on paper, and how they feel in a short period of time, the Fords are definitely ahead in refinement and body structure and a lot of that stuff. But that doesn't mean that it's better, honestly. I would say it's more of a preference. If I had to say like what truck would I choose, it'd probably be an F-150 a longer term, but that doesn't mean it really is better for most people. It is a brand bias thing too, I think, for most.
It is easily the product Ford spends the most money on, though.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, depending on how you feel about it.
I mean, to be fair, like the mechanics I know, I always hear complaints about both.
Yeah.
More GM because they have more like chicken shit,
the
like
old
quality
5.3s.
issues.
Yep.
Yeah, like really bad.
I think the 6.2s have a bad batch of crankshafts currently in the older trucks.
Yeah, and then the long-term stuff with the Chevy products, you know, with like brake lines and just like really, really bad quality on like their parts long-term out of warranty. But then again, you hear the same thing about the Ford engines with like heads, you know, oil leaks, like, you know, everything to do with engine problems, transgrenading. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I mean, I can't could go on forever and ever. Pick whatever one you want, roll the dice.
Graham asked this, and this has come up in some of the comments. Thoughts on a less... Sorry, I'm trying to make...
I'm going back to the tropics.
All right. This is a long question, but it's basically going to come down to thoughts on a less perfect car as a daily. one of those crazy people that bought a lot of cars during COVID and Launcher N to RS3 to FL5, back to the RS3. Even though the FL5 is an excellent car, is my least favorite. It was always so planted and sounds like nothing, which meant it wasn't a fun daily. You go to the track maybe 2 to 4 times a year, but that was not even enough to get me to keep the car. Even though the Launcher N felt a little bit more tail happy, the sound of the car does a lot. I wonder if car journalists sometimes do viewers a disservice by always favoring the best handling car over everything, even though 95% of the viewers probably never track their cars. 99% of the people track their cars less than 4 times a year. I mean, it's, I think to that point, for us, like we just drove this RS5 on the road. The risk of totally spoiling our review. We didn't drive it on track at all. Audi was not happy when we tracked their RS3 a couple years ago, and it just wasn't worth pissing them off for the RS5. And no one on the planet.
We're so late, I don't even care.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
No one on the planet is tracking an RS5 to begin with. But I can tell you on the street, that car drives really, really well. And if you read any of the people who have tracked RS5s, they don't handle track stuff very well, but you would have no idea driving on the road. So cars handle differently on the street and the track. I think it does depend greatly on how you experience them. Like the GR Corolla was so disappointing to me when we drove it because it was only on the track, at least initially.
Again, you know, some of this stuff goes back to the fact that there's no right answer. There's no right or wrong answer. You just try to do a good job explaining some of the technicalities of both, and then let some of the biases come in and like the explanation of why you feel it personally. The RS5 is a perfect example where the engine is making power and torque, but it feels like nothing. It doesn't sound like anything. It's so generic. The car is very bland in terms of like style. I like the car a lot. But again, somebody that really wants that laid back sleeper look and, you know, that very sterile feeling experience might really love that car and might not like the boisterous, obnoxious like styling of BMW. So again, it's not really about what's better. It's about how they're trying to get to what they're trying to get to and trying to explain that more. And that's the same argument with the GR Corolla. When I went to AFA today to drop off the Type R wheels to do tires, the guy's like, oh, what do you like better? It's like, do you like the GR or the Type R? I'm like, I like the Type R, but I own one, right? Like, I'm biased already. He's like, I don't like it. I'm like, why? Because the all-wheel drive. He's like, yeah, I like the GR Corolla. I can't put my finger on it. It's all-wheel drive. It just feels like something. And again, like,
it's indicative of where we live. I feel like if we lived in Oregon, we lived on a gravel road, you'd hate the Type R.
Yeah, of course. Again, it's like, it's not, what we're saying is not necessarily the gospel here. We're just trying to explain our side of it, and I think we try to do that as best as possible.
We will be getting to all of both your regular live questions and, of course, your super chats. I'm just trying to get through some of our Patreon questions because they asked these guys, or they asked us much earlier. Here's a good question, and this has come up a lot based upon where we are. This is for Peter. I live in Southern California. I love to go skiing. Should I consider all-wheel drive in my next car, or should I just have a dedicated set of winter tires or all seasons, like a more performance all season? What would you do?
I mean, if you're in inclement weather on any type of elevation, if you're in snow and you have elevation and you're going uphill a lot, I don't care what you say about tires. Having all-wheel drive with winter tires will be better than a front-wheel drive car.
With winter tires.
With winter tires, yes, because you're getting off the line. You're having 4 wheels doing work. You know, if it's a decent all-wheel drive system, which almost all of them are.
But all-wheel drive is, to someone's comment, is not, and I agree with them, is not a substitute for winter tires in the snow.
No, absolutely not. You could have crummy tires and it does nothing. So again, it's, if you're in inclement weather on elevation and you're in the snow and you have winter tires, all-wheel drive will benefit you greatly over a front-wheel drive.
But if it's like once to
Or
5 times a year.
No, if it's just randomly, no, obviously. I mean, we're just talking about a couple times you'll make it work. It's not like a need. It's a want versus a need.
You could get away with a rear-wheel drive car with sno tires in the winter.
Where's this guy live again?
Southern California.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I want to go skiing.
Just get some winter tires then. Sorry.
No worries. I wanted to make these as sort of generic as possible.
Yeah.
To appeal to as many people as possible. Here's a question from Joe. GR86/BRZ versus FL5 or DE5. Besides the obvious price front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive, weight dimensions, he's really asking, what do you say has the better inputs as far as steering, shifter, brake throttle, chassis dynamics? What feels more special to drive? purely from a specialness. I think that we'll see what do you think?
The reason why I like the Type R is the front end, right? It's
And the inputs, right?
the inputs are great. Like the way that, again, until you run off the tires, but the way that it turns in, the way it's so lively and kind of bouncy, just this edginess to it that most cars don't have, and the way that the shifter is, it's the mechanical inputs between those three, the brake. It's really well cohesively done. It doesn't feel as dead. Clearly, it's not rear-wheel drive, right? It's a totally different experience, but input-wise, it's really exciting in that bubble. The rear-wheel drive cars, dynamically, they're way better. You can get the car to move under you. It doesn't, you're not fighting the front end. Once the front end goes away, you're fighting oversteer now, which is far more engaging than to plow off the road.
But I think the inputs are worse in the GR86.
The new one, the new one. I feel like the old car had better inputs, at least
steering. At least.
Yeah, the steering is more dead in the new one. But gearbox, the Type R is a little bit better. I think gearbox-wise.
I think throttle mapping's way better.
Way better in the Type R, yeah. I mean, it's just more of a...
Better seats.
Yeah, better seats. All these things are really cohesively done because it's Honda's best car, right? Really performance car. They put time and effort into it. It wasn't kind of like an afterthought. So I do like it, but I mean, I can see why you wouldn't. I know you hate front-wheel drive cars.
I drove a Integra Type S, thanks to Acura, from Monterey to San Francisco for when we shot this Lucid multi-piece series that we talked about earlier. I've spent a decent amount of time in your Type R or other Type Rs, but again, our roads suck here. It's just in straight lines, and basically when we're driving cars around here, we drive them to the shop, to filming locations, to run some errands in between. I will say, to your point, the reason why you like your Type R is when you're just sitting in traffic, it's both a really good normal car, and because all the things you interact with are so high quality, shifter, steering is no better or worse than the GR86, and the pedal box is so good.
Yeah.
It's a really great car input-wise. It's just, to your point, when you drive it hard, which even in the canyons, you don't really notice the rear versus front-wheel drive thing.
Yeah.
It's not till you go to a racetrack and you max the car out. I feel like you really notice the difference. Or if you're in the snow. I mean, obviously the GR86 is hilarious in the snow compared to an FL5.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the X factor of it too. Like, it's fun in that isolation of it's quick and easy to drive in the dry when conditions are perfect and you're tired up right. But then you drive the Type R in the snow or the rain and it's just like garbage. It really does. It goes from great to terrible, and the fact that like unlike the GR Corolla, you can pull up a parking brake to turn it. You can't do that with the Type R. It's just. You either have to overbar it in the back for the winter, swap in like a winter package and skinny tires in the back to get it to turn, or it's just a massive like disappointment front-wheel drive car. So I don't know. There's no right or wrong. It's just like, what's your conditions?
The front-wheel drive cars, I think, on the road can be just as fun as a rear-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Till you take away the grip.
Right.
And you take away the grip by either adding a lot of heat to the tires on the track, or if it's wet, they're not fun. Like a GR86 is hilarious in the wet. Dangerous, but hilarious, and in the snow, it's the same problem.
I think the straight answer to this big debate is, when's the last time you've seen a front-wheel drive car that made 500 horsepower from the factory? And it's just, there's a limit to what
Civic with a few simple mods.
Right. I mean, you know what I mean. Like, the reason why you don't have high horsepower front-wheel drive cars is because it's really, really hard to do, and it's not great dynamically to drive. So as long as you've maxed out what you can do, and the Type R is that's really in the Elantra end, they've maximized what you can do with that amount of horsepower, and it feels great because it's the right amount of horsepower for those platforms. But once you cross that line, you have to have a rear-wheel drive architecture or platform or all-wheel drive that's rear biased to really take that horsepower to the next level. And that's something you can do with an 86. You can throw 400, 500 horsepower at not that you would, but the Supra is a good example. You throw that bigger horsepower number and the car becomes a beast.
My next question from our Patreon is from Rushi Patel. What are your thoughts, and I'd be curious from a comment perspective as well, what your thoughts are on Hyundai as a general brand and their push towards performance and the N brand in general? It's grown so much just from me doing this with you. We started with the Veloster N and the Kona N. Now we have the Elantra N here in the US, and you have the Ioniq 5N, and the brand has changed general. It's funny seeing, the general perception of the vehicles, like Chin Face or Chris, is assuming it ever shows up. Hi Yuri. He's getting a Elantra N in the next couple of weeks, or God knows months. It's been delayed for months at this point. But I mean, he likes it enough to buy one. How do you feel about the brand? Or do you think my negativity towards the dealership experience is bad enough to, and the questionable reliability history to still steer people away?
I mean, I bought a brand new Hyundai when the Veloster came out.
A long time ago.
The dealership sucked.
Yeah.
The dealership experience is
But
bad.
now-
I mean, it hasn't changed all that much. I mean, they've tried to improve it. I mean, it's a crapshoot of where you go. Some dealers are just caught in like the 1980s of just feels very, very predatory. In terms of service and like support, you know, Scott would always talk about it. He had so many customers that would come in. The cars had a 100,000-mile warranty. They'd go to the dealership and they would never say there was anything wrong. They would never fix anything. So they wound up having to go to repair shops to have the other repair shop look at it, to call the dealership to be like, yo, dude, this is wrong. You need to fix it, and fight with them over warranty issues and weird stuff. So there's still a lot of that going on, and I know that brand is really trying, but they're also really pushing away from those cars and trying to get an electrification. And it's working, but it's not working. As we know from the thing that we did is they don't make any money. There's no margin on electric cars for Hyundai and Kia, and they're pushing it to the max, and their salespeople are not making any money on it.
Do you
There's
think
no margins.
the Elantra N will be the last great internal combustion and product they make?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's going to be like some type of hybridized, or whatever their hybridized version is. I know they set that hydrogen car to go into production, the old timey one. I don't know what the hell that Vision is. It the Vision? No.
It's something like the weird concept car that looks like a retro vehicle.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy expensive. And then Brit just messaged us that they're doing hypercar series.
Yeah.
It's a race series, right? So they're really pushing that forward. They have the money to do it. But in terms of performance cars, I don't think you're going to see anything like.
I think it was a missed opportunity never doing like a G70N.
Oh yeah. I think Genesis really had a bad launch. They had a really bad brand launch, and I don't think they could have recovered from it. And there was after the G70 did not do well, the manual especially. I think they just bailed out of that completely. So I do think the Elantra N is going to be the last real like affordable N car that they do that's internal combustion. Before they get into like, because the Ioniq N is crazy expensive. Isn't that thing like 70 grand, 60, 70 grand?
Yeah, and the dealers are now marking them up too, which is just.
I mean, cool car, and we're gonna drive it for the first time. I don't have high expectations of it. I know everybody thinks it's great, but putting in perspective that that's $70,000 for a Hyundai is really hard for me to accept for that. So anyway.
Oh, or like a Stinger N. I know you and I didn't like the Stinger, but
the Stinger needed more work. Really the problem was that car needed another generation to fix all the problems with it, and I just don't think I think they got it out there too quick. I don't think it was done, and anything that could have been resolved in a second generation, but it didn't sell, so they were screwed with that. Again, it marketed to enthusiasts, and it didn't have the X, Y, and Z thing that enthusiasts really wanted.
Jackie, one of our Patreons, asked a question that I asked Fenton, Zygreen, I guess is his YouTube channel. How have you seen your car opinions change as you've gotten older? I mean, my opinions have changed dramatically in the last 5 years doing this with you. Have your opinions changed as well since I started doing this with you, or not? I mean, how have they changed in retrospect? Like, if you sit back and think about how you viewed a car 5 years ago versus today, how have they changed for you?
Well, I think it's just age. Your priorities change and shift, right? The common thing that you always hear is people don't change, but they do with age. Your priorities and what you want and what you experience evolve what your tastes and flavors are. I was the guy of like, I wanted an uncompromised car in my 20s, like late 20s. I wanted
even when I first met you.
Yeah, I just don't like the whole try to do everything car, and I'm still kind of that way. But now I refuse. Like, you asked me to take a ride in my S2000 with the top down in 90-degree weather, where I'm just scalding, burning hot. In traffic. I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it anymore. I'm just so, like, it's fatiguing to me. So I've changed, and I don't want that experience anymore. I do enjoy it, but I'd rather sit in my air-conditioned car and tune everything out. I want to hear music. I want to listen to music. I don't want to listen to fucking social media. I don't want to listen to politics in my bubble. I just want to zone out. I still want to be connected with the car, but in a different way, not suffering like I used to. I mean, that's the best way to put it. I still love those experiences, but in smaller doses.
I mean, I think what I like now is it continues to change. I think in general, what I like in cars is either, to your point, they're total isolation chambers or they make me laugh. And what makes me laugh is a variety of different things I've determined at this point. Either pure technical proficiency or just something really stupid.
Yeah.
I do think I've grown out of cars. My fiance says that to me all the time, and it happens to people. Like I know either Thomas or James said this in their Elantra video. One of them said they outgrew the car.
Yeah.
They've outgrown the Elantra. They still think it's a good car, but they've outgrown it from a perspective of what they like, what they've experienced. I think that is true in that there are certain vehicles, like when I get into a Miata, I still really enjoy it. When I drive a GR86, I still really, really enjoy it. But there are certain cars, like when I first drove the Focus RS, many, many moons ago, like 10 years ago with you when I was still in university, I thought that car was fun. And now when I get in, I'm like, why am I in this thing?
Yeah.
I don't like hyper-compromised cars, I guess. I think that's probably fair at this point. Something that is trying to be something it's not, I don't have a lot of tolerance for. Like an M3 I like. I like that idea of it is compromised, but it's still pretty good to drive in all regards. But like an Explorer ST, I don't see the need for something that's fast SUV. You've compromised both.
Well, I think what you're explaining is you get better, the evolution of experience should make you more intelligent, right? Or more objective in terms of at least what we're doing. If we get to drive every car, you get to see the best and the worst of something. You get to see what a brand that puts a lot of effort and money into something and has really good engineers and a team behind it, what they're able to accomplish when they do that well. Then you get to see a car company that's trying to do the same thing, at least in marketing, and they put something out, they say that they're doing the same thing, but the quality is not there. The engineer focus wasn't there. The budget wasn't there, and you get to appreciate both sides of the coin. And for me, like, I don't like marketing-driven cars. I like cars that have had thought to them, even if they didn't have the maximum amount of budget. Mazda's a great example. They try to do a lot with a little, and they are successful in trying to bake in certain things of their ethos into their cars. And I like that about them because it's true, right? I don't like when Ford throws an ST badge on something that used to be relegated to a fun economy car hatchback thing that was really a shit box but super fun,
Like
and
a
then they
Fiesta.
turn it into an SUV. That's disingenuous. I think it's insulting as well as if you understand this. So I'm a lot harder on cars that are basically bullshit mobiles that are marked up to try to capture that audience. Not saying the Explorer ST is a bad vehicle. It's just, it's an example of that type of thing, or putting like
Because it is an affordable-ish, quick SUV.
no, that's
yeah.
fine. It meets the expectations of it, but it's the branding, it's the marketing. It's just it's nauseating, and I think a lot of brands do that, and I think they're smart too. The BMW thing, everybody bemoaned the M thing, and now it's normalized. I mean, there's an M badge on every single BMW to a certain extent. Audi does the same thing. Like all these brands have gotten smart, like how they can do that and make money on accessories. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I feel like I'm objectively better at weeding through this stuff, and I'm objectively more detached from, I no longer get as emotional about cars because there's not a lot of emotion to be had in most new cars. They're very designed with a more of a corporate identity than a passionate identity, where there were more cars I felt had more passion in them before.
I think that's a fair point. I think, but the expectations of cars now are much different.
Yeah.
We have this conversation all the time because cars are more expensive. They have to do more things.
Yes.
In some ways, they get more watered down. 3 more Patreon questions, and then we'll start going.
It's the price too, right?
Oh, and Slumdog, congratulations on your CT4V Blackwing. That car is great. I'm glad our video helped you buy one. Still one of my favorite sedans. I know Mark doesn't like V6s from GM. Next question. Off of this mentality, I mean, we've answered this a billion times. Who do you want to do a video with that we haven't worked with before? Obviously, we've done something now with Throttle House, even though it was really small. We'd love to do more with them. I've done a video, or we've done videos collectively, separately, but we've done videos with our friends at the Straight Pipes. We've done stuff with Albon. Now done something with Zygreen and Fenton. Who else do you want to work with that we haven't had an opportunity to?
I mean, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of crossover stuff I would do. It's just not applicable to this channel. Like it's
like the audio guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I do want to do the stuff that I want to do, and I'll put it in there, but it doesn't really it's not really set up to cross over very much anymore. I think YouTube's algorithm doesn't support that, and you build a viewership of one thing, Like, we're kind of into cars and engineering technology, so going outside of the box too much, to be fair, isn't going to work. I'd have to spin up a second channel for my own personal stuff, which I probably will do in the next couple of years because I'm so I need to get out of this a little bit. Not get out of this, but spin up more personal things that I'm interested into, and then still put the energy here. But the thing is, with crossovers with other YouTubers or other media people,
we've wanted to do. Someone brought up Topher. We've wanted to do stuff with Topher for a long time.
Yeah, it's just it's time, right? Geographically, you got to think. We're not making videos to put people on Zoom calls. You can't do this stuff remotely. So that means one of us has to travel. Who's going to pay for that, right? Like, is that okay? You get a sponsored video, and then what are you going to chew up? A $2,000 sponsorship deal to blow $2,000 on plane tickets and hotel. It's really hard to do this stuff. So that means you got to do a joint venture with one of them on a video that people are actually going to watch. And what does that mean? Then you make, what do you do? Make 2 videos? And this becomes the hard time. People like collaborate more. Then who makes the video? If we make one and then Straight Pipes don't get anything out of it, well, they don't really get anything. It's hard. It's hard to do this. It's not like traditional media where you work together on a project, you put joint budget in to make a project, you could release it, but it's not like that with this. So the straight answer is I don't know. I would want to work with so many people. We worked with Deb from Andy the Lab. She helped us with the Lucid stuff. And that was the first time I actually
met Deb. No, we met Deb twice.
We met Deb, but I mean, it was the first time I actually worked with somebody collaboratively, and not just that, but like financially, having a team to shoot, and that was it took so much stress off me, like so much stress off the not having to shoot as much, but that's hard to do. We're successful because we're able to do a lot with a little, and trying to bring other people in, even if it's like a crossover episode, is hard. I'd be curious to see who people would want to see us. To me, that's more important. Who does the audience want us to collaborate with?
I mean, obviously, be realistic. Traveling to Europe is not necessary. I love to work with Henry Catchpole. We met him at the GTS launch. Super nice guy. I'm sure he had no idea who we were, but super nice guy. And Chris Amos, Topher, is a really, really nice guy. We bump into him all the time. I don't know if he still does his photography business based out in the Detroit area. Maybe he only does YouTube, but he's a super nice guy. And Ted Ward's a good guy too. Like, there are lots of people we spend time with. It's just to your point, it's a logistical problem. Last 2 questions. This one is more your flavor. Okay. Nicholas, what's up, bros? Why should I trust Hans and John at Porsche to build my car when the 86 was built by smoking babes at Subaru's Guma factory? I like my cars built by the same babe demographic. I want to sit in my passenger seat. That's a fair point. It's a fair point, Nicholas.
I don't think. Do you think the Subaru factory has even one woman working there? In the media, maybe in their PR video of like, look at our factory. Look at the diversity. I'm sure the German factories are the same way. I gotta believe it's mostly men.
Oh, probably. No comment about Subarus and women and all the other demographics. I know,
that just went way over my head.
The next question I have, and this is a actually practical buyer's one. Third-party warranties. What companies have you had experiences with? Fidelity is the one I've used, and I've had an okay experience with
Fidelity,
them.
that's right. The one that I had, the last extended I had, I think was who was it? My BMW warranty. I don't remember who it's through. It's so pathetic. I don't remember who it's through. It's one of the big ones. It's probably Fidelity. I had one through USAA before they got rid of that. They got smart right away. They had like one of the best extended warranties.
You can blame
ever.
Doug for destroying the bumper-to-bumper warranty from. God, who owns Edmunds now? What's that company? CarMax.
CarMax owns Edmunds?
Yeah, CarMax is Edmunds.
Holy shit! Hey, I need somebody to buy me out for $1 billion, $2 billion maybe.
Look, Raytheon, if you're listening to this,
I need a $2 billion buyout. Because I'm going to the moon.
My dream sponsor, people have asked. For you, it's that lobster company that just sponsored.
Lobster?
No, the other one that sponsored Matt Farah.
Oh, man, yeah.
Maine Lobster?
Yeah.
Maine Lobster, you can sponsor us. We'll do it a premium lobster integration. For me, no, it's still Raytheon or one of the military contractors. Because the way I would do the intro, again, it's the nose cone camera off a missile, taking out a building, and then brought to you by Savage Geese, or Savage Geese brought to you by Raytheon.
It would have to be some like test site though. because
Nah.
no, you want it to be like one of your neighbors.
Yeah.
You want to take out here because your
And it
neighbor.
would be, say what you want about their politics, but their missiles sure are accurate. That's my dream sponsor.
Because your neighbor got a Ford instead of your Chevy, you just blew up his house.
All
No,
right.
I mean, see, that's the thing is like, you know, we always joke around. I think he did this as a kid. I did it more as I think my dad would do this. He's like, oh, what would you do if you had $1 million? Because you know, he had no money.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, if I had $1 million, you know what I could do? So I'm like, what would I do? And it's always something stupid.
Yeah.
It's always something. If I had like $1 billion, I would just buy Red Lobster. Just
probably
to be,
less-
and then I'd be
less than
broke.
that.
I'd be broke next week. It would go out of business. It just as like I think it's more funny the idea of it versus the reality.
It would just be who ate all the.
I would become the next biggest Dave Ramsey, but the total opposite of him. Like call in and be like, "Hey, I'm in debt. What should I do?" I'm like, yeah, "Take out some more loans. Put the stock in the Red Lobster."
All right. Now we have some other questions. There was one that I just recently saw, and this has come up quite a few times. Let me pull it up. Jack showing his North Korean roots. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
best Korea is North Korea.
I know. I think I talked about this last live stream. Did you see the North Korean YouTube feed that went viral on YouTube? Some dude.
Yeah, you told me you woke in the middle of the night.
It came on that night. I was watching.
You mean True Korea?
Yeah, so it showed like, and I watched it for hours. I seriously did not think it was real. It was so amazing.
What is an emotional car? You said cars aren't emotional anymore. I would argue with you that some of them are very emotional. They're just cartoonishly expensive.
Well, I guess that's different for everybody.
What is an emotional car for you, other than the Murano Cross Cab? Which one of you should buy in the next couple weeks for $40,000? We will be doing a live stream for when we sell the Murano Cross
Yeah,
Cab.
I'm gonna have it go. The live stream's gonna end as that ticker goes down on the auction.
The last
so
hour,
I can
right?
watch
The last
me
2 hours?
go ghost white when it doesn't. It sells for like half of what I own it. Yeah, an emotional car is something that it raises your, that makes you feel like
Something.
lightheaded. Just like you just had an experience, and I think that again, that's just different for everybody. Pretty much anything that raises my teal. Oh yeah, I'm due for my testosterone level next 2 weeks.
Is it gonna
from
be
now.
off the charts?
I have like 2 years of history. I wish I had it for a long time now. I wish I would have had like a trend so I could just watch it tank from like when I was 25.
No, it's gonna go up, dude. We're gonna drive a C7 Z06.
That would actually be a really good test. Like test the day before, and then the next day when you drive me in a Corvette and see if my teal levels go up.
You are now almost the age demo, sir.
Of what? You dropping?
No, well, Corvette owners.
No, I could never do it. You already did it for me.
Yeah. Karen still brings up, what did you say to me? It was, Jack, don't do it for 29-year-old Jack. Do it for 60-year-old Jack.
No, I mean, you might as well do it now because it's not fashionable now to have a midlife crisis with this stuff. I feel like I midlife crisis when I turned 30. Like
You got one more year, and we'll go off the deep end.
No, like literally, I went crazy, and now it's like I don't care. I just don't care how people. I couldn't see driving a car
I don't give a shit
and
what
being
people
like,
think, yeah.
oh yeah, I'm more attractive to women. Like it's just not happening.
The
it's
only
not
people
happening before.
the only people that come up and talk to you when you have a cool car are dudes.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't give a rat's ass. I just want something to make me laugh. To me, what's emotional is what makes me laugh.
Yeah, how are we so off topic with this?
I don't know. All right, back to emotional cars.
No, I already said it. It's you got to feel something, and it's like that. I showed you that video a while ago. The people that like the 20-year-old who bought the GR Corolla, like him and his girlfriend were like elated, like they're just pouring happiness and like tears because they were so excited to drive this car because it was their first experience it was like that for them. So that was like an emotional car. But I've already driven so many cars that, of course, that's not going to match up. So I have to get into something ridiculous to feel something. Well, not ridiculous, but it's got to sound. I think that's the big thing, sound.
Rick, thank you for your $10. Here's for one beef and cheddar, Mark. These prices are astronomical nowadays. Speaking of driving food, would you ever drive the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile? This is a true story. We tried to do this 2 years ago. It'd be the season before. I almost had in the back, and then the intern I was working with, or person, either left or got fired. I'm trying again to get the Wienermobile and the Nutmobile from Planters.
The Planters peanut butter. You're gonna do head-to-head.
Oh, damn straight. I'm going to do a
You're gonna
head-to-head.
bankrupt me on that one, I'm sure.
That is my dream vehicle.
we got to get a 100-person crew for this. I have to have 25, 7,000 frames per second cameras at each wheel.
My dream, I was thinking about it the other day, is to do in a winter so I can drift the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile around turn 1.
Dude, they wouldn't let you do anything with that thing. That car's like priceless to them.
Oh, they crashed one in Chicago. Let's just take that one.
No, that was like the mini one.
I'd take the mini one. I drive around in the mini Oscar Mayer
No,
Wienermobile.
it's the full wiener one or nothing. Like there's no like street credit in the small one. Like if you want to be seen, can you imagine pulling up into your subdivision with that hot dog truck?
Yeah, I can.
Dude, people would lose their shit. They would be jumping out of their second-story windows to like get out on the street to see it.
Yeah, that is my dream. That is my dream
I'm sorry,
project.
they'd be jumping out of their mansion windows to see it in your neighborhood.
I, honest to God, rather drive the Wienermobile than a McLaren F1.
Really?
I think that would be such a memorable project for me.
No, that wouldn't be for me. I want to take that Wienermobile and just drive through your gated community. Your 3 gates, the iron like the vault gates from War Games when they set up the bunker.
All right. Jay Beard, thank you for your $10.
You know what? Unhinged. You remember? I don't remember Unhinged with Russell
The
Crowe.
Oscar-winning movie,
Yeah.
Unhinged, with an extra fat Russell Crowe.
Yeah, so that movie is one of the best car movies ever made. If you haven't seen it, I know I haven't brought it up in a couple of years, but it's worth your time to see that. I would definitely, my life, if it totally went off the rails, talking about midlife crisis, I turned 50 and everything went wrong, I would definitely pitch the Oscar Mayer Wiener thing to them, just so I could get it to drive it through my ex-wife's like front house and right through it. Just to have the best media story ever. This guy, he used to make car videos, just destroyed his ex-wife's house with a hot dog car.
Jay Redbeard, thank you for your $10. Thank you for making the best automotive content on YouTube. I've recently traded in my Outback for a new Accord Hybrid, and very happy so far. I immediately put Tux mats in it. I'm glad you like your Accord Hybrid.
By the way, we're no longer supporting Tux mats. Don't use them. No, just kidding. No, they're good.
Yeah, they're great. No, we use only mats made in the third world by children.
Yeah, I only have my children making mats these days. No, I was in the Lucid today because I don't want to put the picture up, but I had the Lucid full of 4 boxes of wheels and then 4 tires, and I fit it without putting anything in the front. And I'm like, this car is enormous, but I had one of the boxes like totally hit the floor mat in the back, and I'm like, the carpet in there is so soft. I can't imagine half these cars.
Amazing. Well done, Root Beer.
Anyway, just put Tux mats in your cars.
They're incredible.
So you can get more ads.
VG22 for $2. Any videos on long-term pilot coming? Yes, there are.
Next month in October, there'll be another one.
Ride on Moto for $5. Automobiles are becoming so dull. Do you think being a car enthusiast will be a thing of the past? I have no idea.
It'll become more niche. The car enthusiast thing will be smaller. It'll be more like home audio.
Our parents said that about cars, though, in the 60s and 70s. Oh, the cars are going away. And then the cars came back.
I think it's different this time around.
I've given up being pessimistic, and now
I'm not pessimistic. I just think I think car enthusiasts will always be there. There'll be different subsets of it. Like, the guy I was talking about, he loves his old RAV4 from 2006 because it doesn't break. You're going to have these different weird, like, people that love old, quirky cars, classic cars, and, all these things will always be there, but the new car stuff is going to be a lot harder.
I'm optimistically hopeful. I think between social media and the ability for people to connect on weird things now, like it'll be easier for car enthusiasts to meet one another.
Yeah.
And I'm pessimistically optimistic about the future of cars.
I think it's harder because some of these cars that people aspire to own have become so hard to get, and as the decades go on, people are like, oh, RX-7, RX-8, think about that. You could get those cars.
And now they're
right?
super expensive.
You could get some of those old cars and fix them up. Now it's just, they're so hard to get and hard to get parts for, and as decades go on, unless these companies start to remanufacture parts for them, they're just going to become like rich person collectibles, and I think that's kind of the thing that scares me the most.
I mean, the new SI, though, in many ways is better than the original SI. And the Elantra, at the risk of keep bringing up that car in the GR86, they're cheaper than the GR86 is cheaper today than it was many moons ago due to inflation.
Well, that's the thing. Is it a better car? Yes. Is it more fun? No. You know, like the original 6th and 8th gen SI were fun cars. They didn't need the speed. They were just fun. They felt like tin cans, and they still handled great. This car it's far more substantial. You know, it's got a manual, it's got all the stuff, and LSD.
But the people buying cars, like the people who are 18, 19 today, who are going to go try buying Civic SI, they don't know the reference from all those old cars.
Oh,
anymore.
yeah, exactly. No,
So they're going to think
true.
it's amazing.
Yeah, they're going to think they're going to think it's good. It is a good car. It's just different.
Chris always brings up, or Chinface, that he's got some nephews that are Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and what they like cars, they just like things that you and I hate. They love the way the G80 M3 looks. They think it's the coolest thing in the world, and they like
The new ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know they have a different reference.
Yeah, every generation has a different reference.
You gonna do a Type R update video, Jake? Thanks for the $2.
The Type R video is going to be Jack and me running at the track. I'm going to be chasing him down in his excessively expensive GR Corolla, and that'll split into that. It'll be I'm going to pitch the Type R side. He's going to half-ass pitch the GR Corolla side. And that's one where I'll talk more about it.
Zach, for $5, Jack, on a scale from 1 to Haitian, how many cats do you think Mark could eat? At the risk of ever getting political, Alf is a tremendous TV show from your. Does Alf ever eat the cat from that show?
I think he's trying to eat a cat. I don't know if he ever caught one. It's the 80s. He had to have caught one. I think he did catch him. They just came in, and I think they came in. They're like, "Dude, where's the cat?" And he had eaten one. I don't remember.
Because what do you?
It was around. Alf was so popular. You got to think about this. This is so weird. As a kid, they had Alf in McDonald's Happy Meals. You could get a record, like a 45, not a 45, whatever the smaller one was. You could get a record with Alf singing in your Happy Meal. And I'd go home and put on my record player, and I had a little Alf doll. And I never watched Alf, and I just thought he was so cool. I thought it was so cool.
Didn't Tom, for a long time, have Alf as his background?
Yeah. He had a wallpaper of Alf. I think it's in our video. The one where the outro where he's like, oh, I'm going to tune this Subaru. And he does like 50 PSI and he blows up. And it's, I think, his background on that computer. Remember he had the desktop computer in the engine bay trying to tune it? Yeah, I think his wallpaper was Alf.
WSS, the OG. Thank you for your $50. Canadian. Geese, I live in Canada, fucking savage, but you two are charming for geese. WSS, the OG, thank you for your 50 Canadian. You're very kind.
Canada for life. We don't live in Canada. There's still somehow people think that we live in Canada. We don't. I don't discriminate against Canadians.
My parents are Canadian, so at least there's that.
Yeah, my grandfather lived in Canada for 3 months.
He met a Canadian once?
Yeah, he met a Canadian once. He accidentally drove over the border.
Thanks, Mobster, for your $5. God damn it. All right, moving on. Oh, God, I love some of you people.
It's just like I expect, because I can't even see it on my glasses on. So I'm like, I have to read every line like a 5-year-old, like trying to figure out how to read, and then you read the punchline.
All right. Did you see the new Audi? Thank you for your 5 BGN. Did you see the Audi A5 and Q5? I did buy an Audi A5 2019 FSI Sportback, and I'll be happy for a long, long time. Have you seen the new A5 or Q5? I saw the new Q5.
Yeah, I saw
It
pictures.
looked horrifically ugly.
I looked at the Q7 more out of interest because I wanted to see what they updated, and it was like nothing. It's like
Because it's still MLB, but
yeah,
right?
it's the same car. I mean, they did update it, but I mean, it's so minor. I mean, I'm glad they updated it. I do want to drive them all because somewhere deep down, I'm like an Audi apologist, even though I have nothing, like never owned one. So yeah, I do want to check them out. We'll make sure we get them.
Just gonna message Chin to make sure our audio's good.
My pack's still on.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we had the live stream coming up today. I'm like, Jack, can you get the batteries? And he comes in, he's like, doesn't have any batteries. I'm like, 1 bar.
Sir Shocked for $20. Well, thank you, Sir Shocked. 6 months allocation game is impossible. Picky about colors, want new infotainment for 24. LC500 Coupe with dynamic handling is a daily. Previous daily was a 997. Now I have a 24 Civic. Any other special cars you like?
In that price range.
Yeah, 99. I mean, he's what's the LC? It's like 105,000.
Yeah, it's like 107, I think, fully loaded now, the coupe. But, you know, for 107, I mean, you're playing.
You get a Z06.
You're playing in a base Z06 playground.
Because they're now sticker or under.
Yeah.
I think it's like 114.
You get what do you get in Porsche money? Nothing.
Nothing. Literally, you get a. I think you could get a Cayman GTS.
Okay.
Because you can't get a 911 for that money.
What's in the BMW lineup for that?
M4, which I don't think. I mean,
no, that's
a downgrade other than speed.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Audi piles. What are the Audis?
the thing that's in our driveway.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough price point. CT5 Blackwing.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're coming from, if he wants a real sports car, I mean, I did. Fuck it.
LC500 is not a sports
car. Yeah, but
it's a
GT Tour. I mean, you get an Emira, which I don't think is very good. You could probably try to find a used 718. No, the GT4. I think they're like 120 for a high mileage 2020. Yeah, I would just get a Z06. You could find one all day long now.
Yeah, I think LC500 or Z06.
Oh,
it's 6 months allocation for that.
Yeah, and it's impossible. So yeah, I'd go get a Z06,
that
man.
Sucks.
Yeah, Z06 or LC500.
It must be winding down production.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would get a Z06 over an LC500. I'm sorry. Particularly
I guess.
for sticker or under.
Yeah, I mean, if you put a gun to my head right now, I'd probably choose a Z06 over it.
I think you can get a base Z06 non-Z07. Some of the dealers are marking off like $3 or $4 grand. It's a lot of car for the money. But what is the next question? Seafood Diablo for $5. Your Camaro SS1LE video helped me get a 2022 2SS 1LE in black with a manual. It's my first manual car ever. It's been quite the learning experience.
I'm sure it is with a car like that. But at least you have a good gearbox and you feel something in the clutch.
Yeah, that car is awesome. I love that thing.
It's actually not a bad car to learn on. I mean,
and you have red match.
I'm sure it's nerve-wracking, but good choice there. I think you'll really enjoy it. You'll probably have an affinity to it too, learning on there. You'll probably always like that car.
Seafood, I will be joining you probably in the SS1LE game as a 2SS within a year once the GR Corolla goes away. I love that car. That car is amazing for the money.
Yeah, for sure it is.
Zach Patterson for $5. Personal politics aside, how do you think each potential administration will affect the directions of cars and of the markets, if any at all? I honestly have no idea.
I don't know. I have an opinion on it. I think, I definitely think, and this is not pro or con of anything, right?
We're apolitical people.
I don't want to get into that, but I do think what the administration right now is far more, they're far more stringent in terms of like regulations on cars and pushing certain agendas with cars than, like the Trump side versus the Democrat side. Trump's just kind of like, I could see all those regulations getting more peeled back and scaled back, and anybody that pushes it. I don't think just one person's going to change it, but I definitely think the regulations would be less strict on cars under the Republicans, just based on like some of the mindsets, like Buttigieg, right? Like, yeah. I don't think he would survive in a Trump administration. I think he would get knocked out of there pretty quick, and he's very progressive in terms of like the car, and if you look like. When he talks, there's intelligence there about it, but you can tell he's got a real mindset of like what he wants to do for the future of cars, and a lot of it has to do with like electrification, whereas like if Trump brought in somebody, it probably wouldn't be that, you know what I mean?
I will say, I think the part that nobody fully understands or seems to forget here in the U.S. is we're not the only car market.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point.
People are building globalized products. If the rest of the world has regulations that have to meet X emissions, international car companies, maybe not the big three, but
Yeah.
international car companies are not going to make products, particularly in today's world,
Yeah.
purely for the United States. The first or second, depending on how you look at it, car market in the world is China, not the United States. And then you combine the rest of Europe and the rest of the world, you know, they all have their emissions policy.
Right.
Would be stupid.
That's like, why do all German cars have stop-start? It's a regulation there
In
that
Germany,
has to
yeah.
come here. You know, they're not going to strip it out for the U.S. market. So a lot of this stuff trickles down. So there's, to Jack's point, you know, I don't really know at this point. It's a really hard one to figure out. And I you know, and I feel like the problem with the politic part of the car stuff is it changes, right? Like, depending on the leadership, it like flips and then flips back and then flips back forward. And then it's same thing with car company leadership. We've seen this all the time. We talked about with Honda and even like Toyota, right? Like, depending on who your head is, it drives the vision of it going forward. But, well, the next guy comes in or next girl and they hate that previous guy and they like turn it all backwards. So,
But it doesn't work that way too. Cars are developed
Yeah.
years before the administration. Like LT6 or Z06, what
Yeah.
did they say, 8 years ago
Yeah.
when it started?
a long time.
Yeah, when engineers are trying to predict things that are
But
happening.
the electrification game is a little bit different because a lot of these brands had doubled down on it and it didn't particularly go the way that they planned either.
But they're
And
looking
even
at a
there's-
crystal ball.
But they're looking at crystal ball, but you know, like that's one you could say the administrations, the global administrations of politics kind of push the electrification thing. And you see companies struggling with, they've put it out there, and I know they're not the greatest cars right now, but they've put it out there and it hasn't really worked, even with subsidies, right? Like there's subsidies out there for electrification to get people to buy
But they're
them.
making decisions on products that started 5 years
Yeah,
ago.
I know, but
Taj, we interviewed Taj Jukter for the ZR1 video, and he said that the thing that's crazy about cars, it is the only job in the world that you do not get a report card
Yeah.
for 4 or 5 years. So you are making a decision in the moment 5 years ago based upon a climate 5 years ago when it comes
Right.
to sentiment for EV cars, what people are deciding. You're putting all this money into development, and you are guessing.
yeah.
Some GM drivetrain engineers, you know who I'm talking about, he said one of the hardest things about making an engine is you are beholden to the regulations that are being passed after you've already started making that
Right.
engine. From a emissions perspective, what the market is predicting, you know, people have this idea, I make it, it happens. It's, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10 years to make a,
Well, the good ones.
yeah.
Well, you're talking about different, you know, like the
So the
commodity
Lucid stuff started a long time ago,
Yeah,
too.
no, well that too, but I'm just talking about some commodity shit boxes are a totally different story. They're trying to get those things crapped
They're
out.
using
here.
an architecture that starts.
Yes. So anyway, the answer to the question is not so black and white. I think there's a lot of moving pieces, more so with cars and the economy of cars. There was something in our Patreon. Somebody asked, like, why are the DRLs turn off when your turn signals go on? Right? Is it just cost savings, or they want to cheap out? And then one of our Patreons posted up the actual regulatory code of what the code is to develop headlights and how far the DRLs and the LEDs or the light has to be from the actual headlight housing and the requirements for that headlight housing and how the LEDs turn on or off. Like, there are specific things that manufacturers have to follow, and you know, like, all of this shit's baked in, and it's not just like the Republic or whatever party is running the country. There's other things that are dictating a lot of these changes too, which are already far in motion, and you can't change them once they're there, to your point. Like, you're not going to get some of these things that have been baked in 5 years ago are not going away. They're not just going to change the regulations on certain safety stuff. If anything, they're going to make it more complicated, I think.
Yeah. Well, a good friend of mine, Tim, used to work for Toyota, went to law school, now works for NHTSA, or is trying to work for NHTSA. I think he interned there this year. And he's like, it's unbelievably complicated on the back. I mean, you obviously know Tim.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. Ryan, thank you for your
Yeah.
$2.80 Canadian. Congratulations, Mr. FM, for driving a PT Cruiser with wood paneling. You are a scholar.
Yes, that's a real car. I don't know why we're not talking about that.
F1 fan, thank you for your $10. Got a C7Z51 manual. Ready to move on to something different because I never tracked the car. Makes sense. Considering an Ioniq 5N, Lucid Air, Tesla Model 3 Performance, all our options. Would love some suggestions. Looks like he's only looking at EVs.
That's a tough one. I mean, we haven't driven the Ioniq 5N. I mean, we've driven the Ioniq. We kind of know what it's about. But the
I've only driven the old Model 3 with you.
yeah, with the old Model 3 performance, and I know
If
that's
you live in
improved
Chicago
for
and have a new Model 3 and you want to give us it, great. Please reach out to us.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I can't even answer that straight. I think the Ioniq 5N would be probably the most
fun,
entertaining.
yeah.
Because it's really what it is. It's designed to be entertaining. That Lucid Air is just a great sedan. It's
a luxury car,
It's
yeah.
a luxury car, and it handles great, but it's not going to give you like any edgy feeling like the Ioniq would. And the Tesla Model 3 is, I know they've improved it, but overall it's still a Tesla Model 3. You know, with a lot of mechanical updates, it's still going to feel like that tech appliance on the inside, which I can't see somebody coming from a C7 Z51
Yeah,
to a
big
Tesla
V8,
Model
yeah.
3 being like, yeah, you know, like I just don't see that as a smooth transition. Even the Lucid wouldn't be as smooth as that.
Unless, yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, you could always do a sports sedan. If you like some of the rawness of that, you can get a CT4V Blackwing, you get a F80 M3.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised BMW doesn't have like a performance EV thing. Like, you know, their EVs.
i5 and whatever.
Yeah, but those are not,
It's fast.
yeah, but those are not like actual performance cars, you know.
Get back, watch our Ioniq 5N, and we will answer that question at the end of the video.
Yeah, would you trade your Corvette in for an Ioniq 5?
Not that part of the video, but we'd say whether or not we'd buy this over like a Lucid for fun. Jordan, thank you for your $5. Should I trade my original M2 for a Giulia or 997? Or should I keep it?
I don't know. That's a tough one because the Giulia, the QV, I know he's talking about the Quadrifoglio. That would be an experience car. I would not want to own that long term.
My friend owns one now, Joe, the pilot.
Yeah.
He seems to have a good time with it. I don't know if it's going to work.
It's such a cool car, but again, it's like an old whatever the V10 M5 is.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's the same way I view that car as
Cool.
Yeah, cool until it's not cool type thing. 997, isn't that going to be expensive compared?
Guff just sold his, or I think he was. They're like in the probably the same price. The 997.2, don't buy a .1. I think it's like 65, 70 grand.
I'd buy a Giulia over that.
I'd buy the Porsche
Why?
because it's going to work. And they're probably every bit as good as
It probably feels like the engine probably feels totally nerfed compared to that.
But it's
Giulia.
NA, 7,500 RPM.
So,
Drive both. Both will be more fun than the OG M2.
yes. You can't lose. You
Well,
can't
you
lose.
can't lose.
You can't
You
lose when
can
they
lose
vote
with both.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
I think Nathan from Auto Tempest was telling me he lost his motor in his GT4 as a 981. Apparently there's an issue with, I think, cam bolts backing out or something, some like bullshit issue that now is only coming up because no one drove those cars or drove them too much. And anyway, it was, what did I tell you how much of a motor in a GT4 was? Like 52,000 or 42,000? It was an asinine amount for a 3.8 liter, just for a not up GT engine.
Any car with an engine that's $50,000, you're in the wrong car.
Yeah,
That's
why
to
you're a
me,
GM man
that's gotta
like
be
me.
the dumbest things ever. No engine should cost $50,000. A car that's under $100,000, no engine should cost
the
$50,000.
small block and the GR Corolla, some about 25 grand.
Yeah, well, that's
the long block.
stupid too.
Cloudy View for $10. Cheapest way to get into a B58 that doesn't handle like a shopping cart. Thanks for all the content over the years.
X3.
No, M340i.
Oh.
No, I don't know. Can you get an? I don't know what's cheaper, but I'd get an M340i or the M240i. I think that was a B58 car.
Couldn't you get an X3 dirt cheap compared to those? Don't they depreciate more?
The four poppers do. I'm sure the X3 M40i is probably every bit as much money as an
okay.
M340. We haven't. BMW gives us cars 5 years late. We've still never driven an M340i.
Really? Do they even care about that car?
I care about that car.
I feel like everybody cares about that car, but nobody buys it.
Everybody leases those cars.
No.
Dude, those cars, I look at them used time and time again. Like, you could get a high-ish mileage one for like in the 30s.
The depreciation on them is just unbelievable.
Because they're all leases.
I know the Mercedes are bad too, but I mean, it's like, you look at it and you're like, Jesus, how is that sustainable? Like, how is that a sustainable business model for them?
Don't worry about that.
It's not.
I ran the numbers. The numbers look good.
Numbers look good. Sell a car that loses half its value in 3 years.
Lots of manufacturers are pulling back EV plans. Thank you for your 500 yen.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Toyota and BMW are doubling down on hydrogen. Thoughts on EVs short and long term?
Have you ever seen a hydrogen pump or a station? Or
Not in this country. I think there's one in LA now. One.
I mean, I think that's the serious question. Have you seen one? And I guess it doesn't matter how great the technology is. I know I joked around about you with this at some point. It was the whole format war with audio video stuff. You know, like Laserdisc was a great format, but
Till it wasn't.
they didn't have a lot of options. You know, same thing with all of that. If you have the technology and you don't have ways to get it in people's hands and actually use it, then it's just dead. So I think that's the problem with hydrogen is there's no way. You think EV infrastructure is hard to build? You know what I mean? Imagine trying to set up a hydrogen infrastructure in a big country. And this is the other thing too. And I know we talked about this with the EV video, the previous live stream. People take for granted if you're in Germany or if you're in another country like France or wherever, and you think about how big those countries are geographically, it's a lot easier to scale out EV
It's small
infrastructure.
countries, yeah.
Yes, you come to the United States and actually come here and see how the landmass of how far.
I think Texas is bigger than all of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
In physical landmass.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not so easy here to like come up like, hey, why don't you just do this? So like it's not just that you can't. It's expensive. And the hydrogen, I mean, dude, there's nothing against it, but I just don't know how you do that in our country at least. In Canada too would probably be very, very difficult.
Because it's low population density,
Yes.
huge country.
Yeah.
Because it's either geographically bigger or smaller than Russia, like really close to the size
Yeah.
of Russia. Anyway, Jacob, thank you for the $5. Hopefully this is enough for a junior roast beef. Keep up the good work.
Junior roast beef is like $3.50 or $4
Oh,
now.
I showed you that the Arby's is back.
You know, I did the ad for Factor, I think it was,
Yep.
and I was at the old Arby's that had just closed down. Like, I had bought the Arby's for the Tuxmat thing. That was the one where I bought like 6 or 7 and just piled them up with extra sauce and just dripped it all over. I'd gone there and I went inside and it was the best service I ever had from an Arby's. It was like one dude, he was like so nice. And 2 weeks later that restaurant closed. It was like boarded up with chain fence.
But it's back?
So Jack just told me right after I shot the Factor one where it was closed, they reopened it. So did your dad finally like...
The business mogul.
He had a lien on the property?
They didn't pay. So Brian the Hammer knocked down the building.
Well, I can't wait to go back. I'm going to talk to the manager, be like, why were you guys closed? I haven't been able to sleep.
It's this old white man.
There's this old white man in the front. He's complaining about you being closed for too long.
No, I'm just saying my old man.
Oh,
yeah.
no, you said, talking about me.
We didn't pay. He turned off the taps.
He turned off the lights.
Closer to the truth for $20. Thank you, Closer. Own a couple manual Porsche convertibles, my kind of man. Want and add an automatic convertible to the garage. B58 440 or LC500 pros or cons? LC500.
What about what is their convertible? The BMW turd that we like.
Z4.
Yeah, what about the Z4?
I mean, he already has Porsches, which means they drive well. So if you want an experienced car,
Oh, he
already
wants an
owns-
automatic.
yeah, you want an automatic convertible to the garage.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
LC500.
I would say the BMW convertible or that. Because if you get a BMW convertible with a
Yeah, don't get a
6-cylinder
440i. Get a Z4.
Yeah.
Even though you can get it with a manual or Z06 convertible, similar price bracket, probably an LC500.
Yeah, true. I feel like the LC500 is too expensive in the convertible spec because it's more money.
What is it? 114.
It's a lot. I don't know. I mean,
But
if you're
great
buying new,
engine, pretty
yeah.
interior.
I just feel like you're getting a lot more convertible if you're buying it as a convertible. I think you're getting a lot more from the BMW with the B58 in it.
Really?
I think so. I think if you drove them back to back, like that would be an interesting comparison. The Z4 versus that. The
Z4 handles way better.
Z4 is such a great driving car, and it's kind of soft looking. I don't know how to put it. It's a very it's got no muscle to it. I don't know. It just seems very convertibly like Chrysler Sebring. You know, it's like the BMW Chrysler Sebring, but it drives incredible. The LC500 convertible, I don't think drives anywhere near as good as that, but the engine is so good in it that you just kind of like, yeah, all right.
I counteract. You can get a Corvette Z06, pull the top off, or get a convertible. But you're a Porsche man, so you're probably not going to want a Corvette. But similar money to the LC500
that's
convertible.
actually a really good point too. Again, now you're doubling down on the Chrysler Sebringness because the Corvette convertible has like almost zero cool factor.
No, it is zero cool.
There's like it's just.
I can't hear you over my flat plane crank V8 that goes to 8,600 RPM mark, 670 horsepower. It's got an automatic. You can listen to Barry Manilow or CCR. Or Kid Rock. You can
That
listen to
car
all three.
is almost as cool as the Murano Cross Cabriolet. Almost.
Oh, man. All right. Well, hopefully that helps. I mean, personally, if you want to drive there, which you already have cars that drive great,
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe he just wants a GT.
Z4, and if you want a pure GT, the LC500 is... I don't love the convertible, but it sounds so good.
Yeah, it's an experience car.
And the gearbox, while it's worse, is funny. Just another house cat for $20. Hopefully no one eats you. Do you guys seeing the dealership's model going away? I work for PPF manufacturer, and we are expanding into dealerships to provide PPF easier for consumers.
The straight answer is no, it's not going away. You'd have to have some major regulatory shift, and there's so many small business and large, like medium business owners that own car dealerships. They're so ingrained in our culture here that it's going to change with EVs and how they're going to do that, but the dealership's not going away. Not in any near future. You got probably 20 years before you see any shift in that.
Oh man, we forgot about this one. They could buy that the convertible man. You had our Murano Cross Cab.
Hey, if you got $30,000 and you really want the best car ever made, I have it. I'll
or
sell
a
it to
Ford
you.
Thunderbird.
Hey, let me put this here real quick. This is a splash deal. Look at that ticker. If you want to buy the Murano Cross Cabriolet from us, you want to be the first person to have a piece of history, you contact us right after this, and you make me an offer. No low ballers here.
I know what I got.
Yep.
Sadly, it has been track driven.
Not really track driven.
I said pole position. I ran over Britt Casey in the Murano Cross Cab.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Cliff Taylor for $10. Oh, and Ron Dabish, the manager at Autobahn,
he
drove it. Yeah, it's forever increased the
Yeah,
value.
this guy, do not overheat that car.
Cliff Taylor, thanks guys. How do you rank the current minivan lineup? Is the Carnival good enough to compete with the Sienna Hybrid? Fun fact, the Carnival is the ultimate camera car, as we learned. You can drive it with the doors open.
Yeah, no, the updates they made to it are really good. I think it's a really solid car. I know the Sienna update's coming out here in the next month. And I know a lot of people are having a hard time getting them.
Would you buy a Sienna Hybrid or a Honda Odyssey? Currently,
I would buy the updated Sienna. I think it's just a more updated car. The Odyssey still needs a really major refresh.
The V6 is still hysterical.
Yeah, the V6 is good. It's really between those three. I think your Sienna is your best long-term pick, but the Carnival definitely with their updates to it it's way better than it used to be. That's a really hard choice. A really hard choice for me. Line them up, Jack. Line all of those up. I'll do a 17-hour video on it.
I would love to do a shootout with all three, to be honest. I know probably no one would care, but I
think people would watch that. As long as you made it something
I wouldn't buy a
funny.
Pacifica anymore just because they're all broken.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. The hybrids.
Yeah. And the 3.6s are... I was very disappointed to hear that the Pentastar has all these like issues with like heads and all that other garbage.
That's impossible, Jack. You're
That's a supplier issue.
Yeah. You're hating that company for nothing.
This guy's got my kind of collection of
What
cars.
is it?
Nico Jones, thank you for your $20. I have a C8 Z51. I have a 2011 GT500. Yeah. I have a C5 Z06. Thinking of selling my C5Z for either a Nissan Z, Supra, G87, M2, all manuals. I'd like to stay under $55,000. I'm 45 years old. Not looking to track in Florida. Which would you choose?
This guy's got all these beastly...
You got a C8Z and the 20... I'd love to drive a 2011 GT500. I've never driven one.
I don't see him liking a
he won't like the Z.
I would say the Soup, yeah, but the thing is he's got all these like nutty, fun cars. Maybe the G87 is the only one that's off the charts there. That's not the same, but just
and you get a cooler engine than the Supra.
Yeah,
and you can see
G87 M2. There, I did it for you. That'll be our most practical car.
Can you get one for under?
I don't know.
Anyway, if you can get one as a manual, that car is fast.
Yeah, that is.
It's just ugly, but it's fast.
It'll be fine in Florida. It'll be, yeah, I would go that route for sure.
Everyone's old in Florida, which means they have bad eyes. And they can't
It's
tell
not that the
ugly.
Z is bad either, but I just,
It's,
I don't know, with the
there's no back roads in
yeah,
Florida.
that's true.
Yeah, I would get the M2 myself. Brian Liu, thanks for your $7 Canadian. RAV4 Hybrid VS RX 350H. Love reviews. Are you ever going to review sports bikes? I barely ride my motorcycle anymore, and he doesn't know how to ride.
Yeah, it's a choice because I would die.
RAV4 Hybrid or RX 350H?
RAV4 hybrid.
Really? Mm-hmm. Why?
I don't like the new Lexus stuff. I feel like it's too expensive for what you're getting. I just think it's too expensive for what you're getting. It's not a separated luxury car enough. The new ones aren't. It doesn't feel like a Lexus. It feels like...
What about if you got an old one with a V6?
Okay.
Would you get that? Or
I would rather have that, honestly, on that as an appliance. Because it's still smooth.
You get the old V6?
Yeah. But he wants a hybrid.
Isn't the old V6
yeah,
a
but
hybrid?
that's not really, doesn't really get great fuel economy compared. I mean, it's okay, but I think he's probably looking for better fuel economy. If you're going...
CRV. I'd get a CRV hybrid over a RAV4 hybrid. Wouldn't you? RAV4 is 1,000 years old as someone who has one.
Yeah, the RAV4 is pretty good. The hybrid system in it.
You
Or
take
the
it,
new one, right?
Yeah, you take that over the CRV?
I would take a RAV4 over the Lexus.
But if you added the CRV in that mix, would you take-
That's a hard choice. I understand why you would want a RAV4 hybrid. I think,
does it last a billion years?
yeah. Anyway, just adding more problems for you to figure out. Sorry.
Personally, I'd take the CRV. I think it's way more refined than the RAV4.
Okay. Leave it at that.
Redline Gaming, thank you for your $2. Redline,
Yes, thank you, everybody.
FL5 or TLX Type S, coming from an Accord V6. FL5.
I don't know if you're coming from an Accord V6, which it depends what year it is. You know, the last...
Redline, are you still here to comment what year your V6? I mean, I'd take an FL5. I think.
Yeah, it's just if you can, just in the comments, put what model year you have the...
Accord V6. I mean,
Accord
say it's
V6.
the cool one, the 2011 Coupe or whatever that was, the 2014. Would you? I mean, I don't think the TLX Type S is an exciting car.
But if you're coming from an Accord, the TLX will feel like a supercar compared to that.
So won't the FL5?
Yeah, but those are different types of cars. FL5 is... If you're talking about FL5 Type R,
Yeah.
it's going to feel really rough compared to an Accord or a TLX. I would say TLX, man.
Type S, really?
I would. Just because he's coming from an Accord.
Fair point. Okay. Thank you for your $2, Najad. Will the Nissan Versa come back with a V8? I hope so.
If you could fit a V8 in that car, I'd love to see it.
Could finance one of those cars for about 40
I
years.
would love to see it.
Ryan Vance for 20. Thank you, Ryan. Who's lobbying for these state-level K-car bans, and how do we fight back against these idiotic laws? I have no idea. Of all the things for people to complain about and be worried about, the fact that people are worried about people driving K-cars is beyond stupid.
Is that the thing? I didn't even know about
Yeah,
that.
people are trying to outlaw K-cars, like imported K-cars.
Why?
Fuck.
What? Who? Like two people
Yeah.
going to town halls or something?
Yeah.
Who cares about that? Nobody even knows what that is.
Yeah.
That's got to be some obscure like bullshit thing. I don't know. You know, like it goes back to the whole government thing, right? Like you can't control everything. And I told this to our pals like on the group chat. Like literally, if you have like a passion for some of this stuff, just go to run for government on a local level. You know, like get involved if it's affecting you and it really bothers you. At least get involved in your local community. Do something, because stuff like that literally makes no sense. Like I understand the safety part, maybe. You know, because they are tiny and you get hit by an SUV, you'll turn into dust.
Yeah, they got banned in all of New England, according to one of these people.
Did something happen to like somebody's
I'm
like
sure somebody
some
got killed.
policymaker,
Yeah, some got
like
killed
some
or
kid or
yeah.
something? If anybody has any stories about it, like I'd love to know what the catalyst was to get that done, because something had to have happened. It's so stupid.
Ben, thank you for the $5. Have you heard anything on ND3 special editions? Do you have any opinions on Mazda's privacy policy?
They're doing something with that anniversary edition, kind of like what we drove, the orange one.
Yeah.
Now they're doing an ND3 version. I don't know. I think there's been some argument about what color it's going to be. Other than that, I don't know what it's bringing to the table. It's probably going to be much like the last one they did with different color interior piping or something like that. Their privacy policy is like almost every single car that we've looked at. If you go into the fine print, depending on what it is, if you're using a connected car, and I had a really long discussion with Toyota about this 2 or 3 weeks ago whenever I did the Sienna thing. The privacy portal and the privacy policy stuff, because there's no real regulation on what they can and can't do. Just bring that back up and go enter studio. Because there's no real mute that. Stock cam, and then just enter. Again, so there's no regulation on it, so these companies can kind of just do whatever they want with your data to a certain extent. You have to read through the policies, and there's not really a lot of way to opt out of most of the stuff other than not using it. By basically using it, you're allowing them to do certain things. And this is something that needs to be worked on. So I really don't want to say much more than that because it's such a big topic and every manufacturer's not really straightforward about it. They get really weird about it because it gets into the legalese part. So even PR and marketing and PR and all that don't want to talk about it.
They don't get sued into oblivion.
Exactly. And I actually found that conversation with Toyota a little bit like asking about the portal because they're really the only brand to a certain extent other than like BMW has it a little bit. But when you go into your Toyota Connected app, you can toggle out and opt out of all this stuff. But that's, again, you're opting out of all this stuff, but there's still things in the background that are being transmitted that, that they have every right to capture on the cloud and on their server infrastructure and all that. So Mazda is just another extension to it. When we talk to them, I think our next time we do I don't know what the next car that's coming out, we'll talk to...
we still have not done a CX-70, not that it matters because it's the same car.
Yeah, that's something we could have a discussion with Mazda about because their North American team does integrate with their infotainment team in Japan, and they do have some pull with it. So I'd like to hear their side of it. I think they'd be pretty honest about it.
Skit64, thank you for the $10. Thoughts on the GR Prius and the sport mode on newer Toyota hybrids? I'm fascinated with their PSD, and I think it's got a lot of untapped potential, but it's been tuned for pure efficiency where it's been used.
I don't know. I think Toyota's their performance stuff is interesting.
They're masters at it.
What's that?
They're masters of the hybrid tech.
No, they are. I think we'll see more in the next 5 years.
Isn't that LC500 replacement thing going to be a hybrid sports car?
Yeah, it's hybrid, like twin turbo. So you're going to see a lot more from them in the hybrid performance game. I know they're all that stuff's being worked on right now, including like fake manuals. Like them and Hyundai are going to be one of the first ones to do that. So we'll see. I don't know where it is. We haven't talked to the Japanese side. Again, this is the problem with these brands. Like
Toyota's probably the hardest of the Japanese brands for us in that regards. Access engineers,
like Japanese engineers, the guys who are actually doing this work, and like we don't speak clearly Japanese, so it's not like you can just go there and be like, hey, tell us about it. I mean, if we were Japanese, they probably would tell us a lot, but it's hard.
I do think the GR Prius will be neat. I like the idea of that. I mean, the problem, everything's hybrid now. The Prius is not in the same spot it was 20 years ago when it was first introduced, so now it needs to be a reason to exist. So if they make the Prius more fun, more dynamic, interesting, it'll give it more sales.
I don't know.
I like the Prius look and interior more than I like the GR Corollas. So,
I was thinking about that today on the highway. I was driving back, dropping off those wheels, and I was on 355 in Illinois. It's just an open interstate, and I was driving and I saw a Prius pull onto the interstate, and I was thinking like, with this EV, I can go foot to the floor flat out and just have all the power in torque. And I was thinking like, well, if that Prius was like a performance hybrid, it would be saddled by the fact that it would still have to deal with having that internal combustion engine, which wouldn't be some like big power plant. and you would have a limited amount of capacity in the battery pack to give it some electric assist, and that fun would run out. You know what I mean? Like,
We'll see with
there's always,
the Prelude when that comes around.
yeah, I'll be curious to see how they do it, because you're kind of fighting against. This is the problem with the new hybrids, right? Like, they're trying to add the electrification boost, like a supercharger or a turbocharger to it, but there's like a finite amount of battery power they can put into those because they can't afford to have big packs. And then, you know, like, you can't constantly keep the juice going on them. So I think that's my problem, is you're spinning up dual drivetrains without having ultimate consistent performance. And that's something that, I mean, EVs do have a problem with that when you run the battery down, but it's not something they have a problem with, like, just driving every day. You can go blow through 300 miles of range and still have consistent performance with the batteries. And
Joe, thanks for your $5. You didn't have to do that. Joe's been a long-time Patreon. Hello from Japan.
Hey, thank you.
We'll be at Fuji Speedway tomorrow morning for the 6 hours of Fuji. There might be Porsches or even a cross cab there.
I'd like to see a cross cab there, but just make sure you clear the track for it, because it's gonna just
dominate.
Yeah, it's gonna really.
It'll win the 6 hours of Fuji.
Yeah, there's 6 hours of Fuji will be them cleaning the CVT parts off the track. Yeah, have fun at that. I'm sure it'll be great. We were at Motegi, right?
Yeah, we were.
We didn't go to Fuji.
Vadim, thanks for your $2.
Thank you very much.
Alexi, thank you for your 14 Canadian. Thanks for the content. I have a base Cayman 987.1 looking to buy your newer car with similar handling and engine noise. What are some good options under 35,000? Engine noise is gonna be the hard part because you're coming from a Porsche.
And for under 35.
Fuck.
V8s. You're Mr. V8.
Corvette. Yeah, just get a Corvette.
How about, I got one. You just told me about it yesterday. 5 Series 550i with 75,000 miles on it. V8.
Get a no warranty.
Yeah, no worry. You'll have an amazing $35,000 car that will sound great and drive great.
Till it doesn't.
Till it doesn't. Yep.
Z4M.
Yeah.
It's not a newer car, but a Z4M is a badass car.
Yeah, if you want something like that. Oh, man,
Sounds
there's not
good.
going to be that much compared to that. I mean, you're going to have to go back quite a bit.
Or spend more money. I mean, you get a Boss 302 Mustang. It won't handle as well, but it'll sound good.
What other piles are there?
For 35,000. Oh, you can get an SS1LE if you're okay with high miles.
True.
There you go.
That's true. Yeah, that's actually probably the closest thing. That's why I asked you about the V8s.
Yeah,
What-
you'd have to get some Chevy pile or a
how
Ford.
are you going to like getting into those cars after getting out of Cayman, though?
But it's an old Cayman. It's the one we did, the dot one, the red one we did all those years ago. It's a cool car. It just,
It's not going to feel very...
I bet you the SS1LE will feel like a supercar. compared
Yeah,
to the
probably.
Cayman.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of, like, overall
Power.
grip, too.
Yeah. Better chassis too. Thank you for the $10 and kind
Thank
of
you.
explain how much I look forward to your videos each week. It means a lot, genuinely.
Yeah.
Sometimes these videos, I mean, Boohoo is us. We have a really cool job, but not all videos are great to make, and the pressure of making sure we get all these out to keep the business afloat is sometimes a lot.
Yeah,
So,
it is. It's weird. I was thinking about, because we only have one video this week, and then next week we're struggling to get 2 videos done.
we'll get to them.
What?
You're gonna try to get the GR Corolla video out next week.
Yeah. So anyway, this is exactly my point. We're always back against the wall of, like, trying to get stuff out, trying to do 2 videos a week. Like, you would think it'd be very straightforward, but it becomes like,
When you have big projects in between.
yeah, it becomes like there's not enough time in the day to finish all the stuff between all of it. So it's hard. So I'm glad anyway, long story short, I appreciate you appreciating these things, because we do. It's hard to get them out at this schedule and still try to do a good job while still being engaged in, right?
I was engaged in the RS5 this week. That was fun.
I honestly, I've purposely, this is kind of personal, but I've tried my best to not be me. And I told Jack this, like, I'm having to not be me, like taking out the stuff that's in the background to try to do a better job in these videos, because you can see my soul getting sucked out sometimes, and it's just apparent. Like, you can tell that I don't want to be there when I'm maxed out. So I'm trying to do a better job of understanding, like, I don't want to make people miserable watching this stuff. So I'm really trying to turn a corner with some of this. So hopefully you enjoy whatever we shit out.
We do. No, we do. I think next week. Aren't we going to try to get the Dakar out next week?
I have no idea. I don't even want to think about it. Like, that's another one. Actually, that's not a hard video to do. I'm so focused on the Toyota one
Yeah.
Like I'm actually in the middle of trying to get this Toyota
Yeah,
video
that's
done.
going on my left.
Yeah, and I have like I'm recompressing footage that's like so low quality to show technical diagrams and all this. And I actually am really enjoying it because I'm getting to learn so much about millimeter wave and how it works and all this sensor technology and how all the software tuning works. I'm really hyper engaged, but I can't, that's the thing. I can't spend 2 days learning about it when we got to do all this other stuff. So you got to pick and choose, like every job, what you can actually spend your time on.
Free Steve for $5. Thanks, Free Steve. Think car companies can make sports cars with good designs like the 6th-gen Camaro, ETS Coupe, etc., and focus less on sports car with resto mod interior. They kind of did that already with the Mustang. They went away from retro and added screens to it, and everybody hated it.
That's not a good example.
No, but that
is
an
what
example
they're trying to do, but
yeah.
not a
not
good job of it.
succeeding.
Yeah, I think they could, and they're running out of things to do. I think that's the thing, right? Like, what is the new frontier of cars?
What is the best interior sports car that you've been in, from an overall perspective? I know what I'm going to say, but what's your?
I mean, there's two standouts to me.
Right.
There's the LC500, which is not a sports car, but the interior is incredible for the price point.
For what it looks like.
For what it is on the inside, it's like it's.
Well, why is it incredible?
Because they actually spend time on attention to detail. Every surface was thought out pre-update, right before they tacked on the screen. Every surface was thought about in that car, and there was nothing they didn't sweat. So that's not a normal sports car. But the new 911
all the new
992 interiors are very special because it blends the best of new and old. It still has all the stuff that you need for physical inputs, like having a rotary knob on the steering wheel for changing a drive mode without having to toggle or swipe a screen. I mean, it's things like that they mastered with that car. That's like a throwback to like 90s cars and blending in new technology at the same time. It doesn't have a stuck-on screen. The screen's still on the dashboard. It blends into the background. They kind of fucked up the gauge cluster, trying to go with the 5-way thing, but they still had an analog tach.
It used to.
So I think that's one of the best sports car interiors, other than like the ND Miata, even though that has problems, but it's very basic, not to a fault. For the size and the space of the car, they focused on one thing only, and that was just driving in that car, which is great.
Yeah, and I think the exterior styling is still good, and the interior styling is great. I think the best interior in a sports car is the 911, just the 992, because you can see, and to your point, it blends the new and the old. Yeah, there aren't many. Other than that, I guess there really aren't many sports car interiors that I feel like they knocked out of the park. Like the problem with the Camaros, you can't see.
Right.
The old Mustang, the S550 interior was shit because it like weird retro with Ford bad.
Right.
The new one is all screens, which is worse somehow.
Yeah.
Challenger's garbage. FRS feels ultra cheap, but it's basic and it works well.
It's the same thing with the Miata. They're very similar. Still, that's actually a really good interior for what it's.
Yeah, no, I think it's done a good job. FL5 is not retro on the inside at all.
I think the Type R is retro to its original Hondas. I think that's a great car for a Honda because it does go back to the simple nature of like 6th and 7th gen cars without being hyper generic. The screen is the killer part because the screen in that car is so archaic and plasticky. So that's why I didn't bring it up. But the interior usability, if you just cover your hand over the screen, great usability. Like, things like, and I thought about this, on the left side, there's still a roller switch for the dimmer to dim down the interior. Like they still have it in the physical realm versus putting on the screen, which you can see if you want to see what Honda's doing in the future. You look at their Japanese website and how their interior is different between the Accord and our Accord here. They have like all touch stuff. Like,
hey, Miles.
They got rid of all of the center, like all the physical stuff for a touch. So you can tell they want to do it, but for this market, they're keeping it physical. I'm sure that has to do with North America. But it's great. It's great. Anyway, I'm just rambling about it. Those are our picks.
We are redoing our T-shirts. You will get them. There'll be a pre-order setup. You'll see new T-shirts. We'll do an announcement in the future, but we're working on it. You'll get T-shirts, we promise.
Yeah, it's going to be out in November. I think I don't want to bore you with it. I'll have some announcement for it, and this is not going to be some groundbreaking thing. We're redoing the same shirts that we had from an American supplier, American made, American farmed, all this other stuff, and they are going.
And naturally, we're making it complicated because we're going to walk you through how the shirts are made and all that shit.
But that's part of this. But they're not going to be cheap because of that, And I don't really care about price. We're not trying to make a lot of money, but they're expensive to make and manufacture because it's here. But yes, November.
Midnight GTR for $20. Thank you, Midnight. Your Nissan R35 GTR video was amazing. Huge part of the reason why I purchased my new R35 in July. Smiling ear to ear every time I drive it. Thanks for everything you do.
That's probably one of the most unique and most uniquely Japanese great driving cars I've been in. I know it's kind of...
I would take one over the new NSX.
Yeah. I know, and that's kind of... it's sad because the NSX gearbox and engine are so incredible, but the car doesn't drive great, whereas this car solves all those problems, despite it having
You feel things when you drive it.
Yes, it is. It's incredible how much you feel through that car.
It's a car that when it came out, like Top Gear and everybody made fun of it for being digital, but now all cars do that, and because it's so old, it feels analog.
No, exactly. With age, now that things have become even more soft and like isolated out, that the GTR is definitely the standout in that style of car.
It is a really cool car. It's not my kind of car, but it's a really cool
You know
car.
what I'd love?
We were supposed to do a send-off video. It just did not happen. Like
Gary,
we were supposed to.
Gary I used to work with,
Yeah.
he had an R35 that was
Make like
modified.
1,000 horsepower or something.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always wanted to drive one of those that are high horsepower. I'm sure it's going to be fun.
Get one from AMS or something.
Yeah, I'd just like to experience it once. I mean, clearly I would never do that.
Elvis, thank you for the $5. Get yourself some Bubba Hubba Gum. With this extreme amount, you guys should buy the Pikachu Beetle and make it a dedicated channel car.
That actually would be a really good channel for that. I'd probably get more views.
We've answered this a lot. Sidekicks streams, thank you for your $2. Not us. There are tremendously great motorcycle channels like, who's the one I keep telling you about or I've told you about in the past? Fortnite?
Yeah, Fortnite.
TY10 for $10. I need a Weekend Warrior second car stuck between an FK8 or an FL5. The FK8 is the LE, the limited. I like the look of the FK8 more, and I've drove an FK8 and I love it, but watching your videos, I'm not thinking FL5 Type R, maybe. What's the reliability like? I'd get an FL5 over an FK8.
I would. I just can't stand the look.
But looks aside, they made a better car through engineering improvements.
They did make a way better car. That's definitely true. I think the FK8 is, if you can get it for a lot less, then that's a totally different story.
Explorer versus Pilot, quick question.
Pilot.
Yeah, me too. Pilot, I think drives better, even if it's those front-wheel drive.
Did you say Miles? Did Miles?
Yeah, Miles popped in. Miles and I had lunch or dinner recently at, the hell were we? Pebble Beach and the Quail. Super nice guy. He does really good work too.
Yeah, he posted something or tagged me on Instagram, and it stood out because he tagged me to the dude who's taken over Red Lobster. the new guy. He's like 35 and he wants to transform it because he ran, God, what was the other company he ran? It wasn't Benihana. I don't know which. Why don't I just bring up my phone? Anyway, he tagged me to this, and I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, that's Jack, if in a different life, what he would do if I injected him with my DNA. You just buy up every food chain and then flex on people.
A businessman.
Yeah, here. P.F. Chang's, that's what it was.
Oh my God. So he'll continue.
I know, it's barely, probably you can't see it. But anyway, this 35-year-old CEO plotting Red Lobster's comeback. Former P.F. Chang's leader promises better service, food, interiors, but no more $20 unlimited shrimp on the standard menu. This guy, how could he do this to me, Jack? So anyway, that's what he tagged me on, and I thought it was funny. So
you single-handedly have destroyed your body by all the unlimited shrimp.
Yep, I'm the one that put him under.
Austin. We'll try to wrap up questions in the next 30-ish minutes. Does that work for you, Mark?
Do we have any more?
We have a lot more.
Okay. All right.
No. Stop asking new questions in
Gotcha.
about 30 minutes. That way we can actually get through all these. I gotta get on a flight tomorrow, unfortunately.
What time? Oh yeah, it's
It's in the afternoon. Once electric cars, Austin, thank you for the $10, reach a large minority, 30+% of cars on the road, I believe the depreciation on EVs will increase while the ICE depreciation will flatten. Thoughts?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I can't really say. I think a lot of it is there's so many parts to that. I know we got into the discussion last time about the lease rates and the subsidization of the current EVs suppressing prices.
Yep.
But that's not.
But also hurt depreciation curves further if you're looking at the MSRP from down.
But like long term, he's talking like
Oh.
the 30%. We're talking that's a lot. You know,
Yeah,
if you have
we're not going to reach that for a long time.
30% is a big number. If like adoption rate across the board is 30%, I think. I don't know. I don't even want to speculate. There's no way to know.
Yeah,
Because if you have a 30% adoption rate
if
of
EV technology stagnates to the point where it's just the same thing every year, more
Yeah.
like ICE
Right.
stuff, I don't think the depreciation curve for EVs will be
well,
that bad.
it'll be dead if they don't. It'll be dead. There's no way that can survive if it doesn't improve.
Yeah,
Like,
but you say we reach the point where EVs
Yeah,
all have
okay.
500 miles of range,
Sure.
and you get to the point where they're what OEMs are promising on the back end.
Yeah.
I don't think the depreciation curve will be horrific.
I don't think so either. I think, you know, Toyota just announced some stuff yesterday for their new battery tech. And if this delivers, you know, if they can stick to this plan and their batteries work and other manufacturers are on that pace, I know Lucid's really pushing for, you know, that massive efficiency of their battery packs. I mean, if they can start delivering that and they can deliver that stuff at like $35,000-$40,000 where it needs to be in the next 10 years, it's going to be a different story, but I don't know. Because we're not there, it's impossible to know.
JC's videography, thank you for your $5.
Thank you.
We've already talked about the Audi Q5. They've done everything we don't want in new cars.
Yeah, you know, the one interesting thing about, I don't want to mess with this. If you look at their new screen layout, did you see that?
Isn't it normal, like the two normal screens versus the double stack?
Do it, and they did. So you know how like Porsche does their 3-screen,
Yeah.
or like Mercedes, it's kind of like connected in one pane of glass. They just stuck on 3 screens, like across the dash in different sizes. It looks. I can't understand it other than not having the money to do it. Like it's got to be a money thing.
Here's some inside baseball. I've talked to some people who work at another German brand, and they are deeply worried about VW and Audi and making poor decisions. And I think some of the reason why they try to distance themselves further, specifically from VW, and in some ways Audi, is because of some of the mistakes they're making from a product perspective.
I mean, there's no real logical. Some of this stuff doesn't make much sense, and no matter what you're doing.
I don't know who looked at the new Q5 and went, yes.
I mean, this is stuff. We just had this conversation. We always joke around about one of our first like negative calls with VW after I pulled the what was it?
ID4.
The ID4 video. Actually, I didn't. I pulled 2 of them. Actually, I didn't finish the second one. You know, and I thought to myself, it was so. One of the main reasons I went off on them is this company has so much money and talent that there's no way that there's any excuse for them to greenlight a product that consumers are paying over $40,000 for that doesn't work. Right, like that. It's different if it's like a small startup.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, this is our first attempt. You know, that buys you some goodwill. Like, oh, they tried, but no.
No, they fucked it.
No, it's just these are outright bad decisions, and at a certain point, you know, you just can't. You can't let them buy. You can't give them a pass for it. And Audi is a mature luxury brand with insane engineering.
The Q5 could be godly. Who knows?
Yeah, but
just,
yeah, some of the tech decisions don't make much sense at all.
Josh, thanks for your $5. I'm gonna put down a deposit for launch around on Friday. I wanted to buy an 83, but it'd be my only car that I barely fit in Thoughts.
You're gonna be totally fine. You're gonna be really excited to drive that car.
The Elantra's a great car.
Yeah.
Don't look back.
The only thing I think if it was me and I'd own it, I would look to dampers. I would probably do something damper wise.
And an Elantra.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I think I would do a really expensive set of good dampers that I could have a spread of like really good street comfort. And
I don't know what the aftermarket's like for that car.
I don't know either. I'm just making stuff up. I have no idea what's available, but that's the only thing that I would do. And at that price point, it's like you would have a little bit of money because the car is in a good price where you could screw around with it a little bit and
You
still
can
be
do
happy.
wheels and tires and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, anyway, that's just good choice.
Jordan, thank you for your $5. LC500 versus E92. V8 GT car, price aside, the E92 fails to be a true GT or sports car. And is the LC500 engine special enough to go LC? But do you have an E92? Because an E92 now, they're like a really nice one's like 60 grand or 50 grand for.
I went back and watched I just actually recently went back and watched the 92 videos. I think it came up in the feed, not just the ones that I did, but somebody else's. That car continues to be popular for some, you know, people.
The V8.
Yeah, V8 manual.
Looks
vehicle.
great.
It looks good. So yeah, I thought about it like for what you're getting, you know, maybe you can make the argument when it was 40 Gs it would be okay, but not for 50 and 60.
For a good one.
Yeah, and you have to do, to my taste, I think it was missing a lot for that generation.
You would need an intake. So I drove a really clean one that one of Gibran and Amir's friends had, which I wanted to buy till he told me he wanted 65 grand for it. And I'm like,
Oh
I'm
my
not
God,
doing
yeah. I remember you talking about that.
that. It had an even Churi intake, some Dynan exhaust, and I think like Olean's dampers. Car drove amazing.
Was it Olean's like road and track or was it TTI's?
No, road and track. It was a sedan.
Okay.
I don't think it was a slick dash. I can't remember, but it was a sedan. Exactly what I'd want in that car. Rod bearings and all the other bullshit aside.
I don't even care about the mechanical stuff. There's just, I've always said this, the car is missing something because of, it's that back to our discussion about how a car makes you feel, and it's devoid of, it's not a sports car. It's got that engine is just not right for the body, and you have to do so much to make that car feel connected. It's so boaty as a stock car. I don't know. I just never connected with it for some reason.
The one I drove with all those parts thrown on it, it drove way better than Matt Mormon's car.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I just, you know, that's the thing, right? If you're spending 60 grand on an E92, you know, parts ain't cheap for that.
No,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the guy had probably had 15 grand worth of parts in the car.
easily,
so,
right? To do it right. So I mean, at that point, and then you still have an engine. You know, when we first met, we were screwing around with your Mustang GT, and on track, I mean, it's not much faster than like an S550 Mustang in a straight
I think
line.
it's slower.
You know, it sounds good, but it's not particularly.
Would you buy an LC500 then over an E92?
Yes, I would. I'm not that it's a better car. I don't think it's a better car than the E92. Don't get me wrong, but for what they're both trying to do, I think the
500 sounds better.
the LC500 is pure in what it delivered in terms of its mission. The E92 was a 3 Series with a V8 in it. That's it. That's all it was. So, I don't know. Maybe that's my problem with it.
Doopa-doopa-doo. Six Stringer, thank you for your $10. And thank you again for another $10. What is the best street Porsche GT car? Just for fun, non-daily, non-commuting, a few times a week. GT3, GT4 RS, Spider RS.
Probably the Spider, right?
No, Spider.
Yeah, because you hear everything.
Yeah.
You're not caring about like lap times or any of that crap. You're just actually enjoying what makes that car good.
If the 4RS rode better, which you are doing with the Spider, it's softer. You have the same engine. I don't care about it being strut anymore, and you're not going to commute it. Who cares about the interior? Spider RS.
See, you know, now that I've driven all of these things, and I had a chance to drive the 4RS quite a bit on the street, more than I thought I would, and then just driving the Manti GT4 RS, I think there's some special. This is a perfect connection to the E92 M3. Because I never felt like I was driving a special car in the E92. It just felt like a generic BMW. Where the GT cars, the GT3 RS specifically, and those cars feel like they are, again, like these were designed to be this way.
Yeah.
And it had this cool factor, this special factor about all of these systems and the way that the way that the instant response, I was thinking about the 4RS PDK, like I literally just was testing it nonstop, testing the paddle. Like how quick would it respond as soon as I hit the paddle? It's the closest thing to like a video game mode where you click the paddle, it's in a gear. It changes a gear as soon as you touch it. There's no delay. And there's something special about the way that those cars are tuned from a driver perspective. As a weekend car, I think the 4RS, the Spider RS, and more so the GT3 RS are really, really cool. I mean, the GT3 is a dream car as well, but I mean, if you're really looking at the X Factor part, the RS products are incredible, for sure.
Yeah, and the Spider RS is a street car.
Yes.
It's designed as a street
Yeah.
car. If you can get one, we're supposed to get one as a press car. Such a badass car, and it looks good too.
Yeah, you just leave the stupid top thing, because that top is so stupid.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
That's shit you just leave in your garage with it off and, you know, just drive it with the top off. I don't see why you would buy that and not take it off.
Dillo, thank you for your $5. Would you consider a Civic Si Generations like your Miata series? I'd love to. It'd be hard as hell to do it.
Yeah, that would be something, because you're not going to have any support from Honda. I mean, you might, but it would be
I'll talk to him.
Dude, it just wouldn't be worth the time. I don't think it would be worth the time. One of the SI, because the SI started
90s.
Before that. It had to start in the 80s.
No. We do the EM1 and after.
Are you talking about a Civic? Well,
Yeah.
what about the old
Fuck it. Civic SI EM1 to now. I would do that.
I think people would want the CRX SI and all the other stuff one day. It's just a lot of work, you know. Like I'm not that excited by it to do that. And getting those cars would be really hard. You know, like getting all of them together at once for the amount of time that would take, and then who would we talk to about it? Scott at King Motorsports probably. And I think the other thing is, like, even if we went to Honda to interview them, who would talk about it? They'd be like, it's a Civic. You know, like, it's a Civic. I don't think they have any like real passion or heritage about it other than the original story. If you go back to the NSX, right, like when you talk to Uehara-san, he was like, you know, I got brought in to fix the handling of their cars. Those were the cars that all started, right? He was trying to change the CRX from being in their old Civics into these horrible driving cars into actually doing suspension kinematics. That's where it all started. And all of those teams got on board with it, the guys who did NSX. That's where the real story was. And everything else, it was just like an evolution of it. So it's a roundabout way of saying I have no idea how you would do that.
Jordan brought this back up. Thanks, guys. Body handling, chassis-wise, just wondering how the LC500 compares to the E92. E92, I think, handles better than LC500.
There's no way that I could even, as much as I don't like the E92, that I could say that it's a worse body. I mean, if you set it up right, I mean, stock versus stock, you're not going to notice much. I think the LC500 would be actually more enjoyable than the E92.
Really?
I think stock versus dynamic handling package, I think it's a more enjoyable car to drive dynamically. The E92 is way too soft, even with the adaptive dampers on the car. It just is a boaty feeling car. The front and the back end, as much as it is a neutral car, it's not direct. It just feels like a big front end heavy car.
I think it's more direct than an LC500.
I don't know. I think maybe it's more direct, but it's not as fun to drive. I mean, yeah, could you do a power slide in it? Yeah, okay, big deal.
You could drift an LC500 all day long, too.
You could, too. So I guess if you're talking stock versus stock...
I think the LC500 turns in better than E92.
Well, because of rear steer.
And double wishbone.
Yes. It's you could argue what the better platform is, but the LC500 is... Its big issue is its weight. You know, like as a street car, it's not as big of a deal, but because it's so heavy compared to the E92, that's a much harder sell. Now, if you're going to modify it, like the E92... Well, and let's be fair, the LC500 to get a really good one is like $80,000. So is it $80,000 better than a $60,000 E92 with a set of dampers? No. Like once you start doing those things that the E92 has, that car becomes much, much better than the LC500 to drive. But do you want to modify it? I don't know.
You buy an LC500, it's just going to work.
Yes, you're not going to have to do anything to it. That's another thing, right? You're paying the extra money to get a car that's never going to break on you, other than, you know, it's not going to ever be tracked. You're not going to be able to.
If it were me and I was looking to look at those two cars, I'd buy the E92, but I'm different than you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the manual argument, too. If you need to have a manual, then are your answers right there.
I will say you had a shitload of fun with your LC500.
Oh,
I had
yeah.
that C7 we tore around Autobahn together.
I
I still view that as a highlight.
Yeah, I don't think I had a lot of fun doing it. It just the car just can't handle anything more than like 2 laps. You know, it doesn't have cooling, and that's what killed it for me.
And you can never fix that.
Yeah, you can't. It's just not worth doing it to. So, you know, as much as I complain about the E92, at least you're not going to have those problems if you just do some basic stuff to it.
C5Z or S2000 before we get to that?
I don't know. I mean, there's not a better car. It's just what you want out of a car.
If you want to go fast, Corvette.
Yeah, the Corvette's going to annihilate the S2000.
Stock, at least.
But the feel part of the S2000 is, you know, like a car that actually turns itself, right? Like you're not having to do steering input. It's the chassis is so biased to the back. It's such a special driving car, but slow as hell compared. So,
Aaron,
the best of those era of cars from Japanese and the Americans.
thank you for your $10. Best CPO sports sedan. Think 2020 to 2023 A4, TLX, 330, so current generation BMW, or GLI for 30 grand. Never had an auto, but wife requires one for my next car so she can actually drive it.
That has to be a 330 then.
You'd get a 330 over a TLX?
Just because of the transmission, right?
Yeah, I probably would too.
I mean, I like the TLX, but the transmission is like if you're coming from a manual car and you want any type of control of your transmission, the TLX is not that car. it's a great automatic car, but I mean, if you care about transmission performance coming from a manual, then you have to go to a BMW. If you don't care about manual like control, then pretty much other than the GLI, I would say 330 first, TLX second, A4 third, and then GLI last.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do too. Aaron for $20. Thank you, Aaron. 2008 STI hatch, special enough to hold. I got in a 2012. Got it in 2012. Was my daily 145,000 miles original drivetrain. Wow, you're like the only person that has not blown up an STI. Don't drive it much anymore. I love driving. Hope you get a fun car later. Love your work. Best bromance in the game.
I never owned a Subaru. Well, that's not fair that for us. But I've never owned an STI WRX, and every time I get into an STI, I love driving it. Mm-hmm. And I understand why people like driving it assuming they don't fuck the car up with a bunch of nonsense modifications. That's a car, if you already own it, it's already paid off, and it's just a once in a while car. Just keep it, don't dump it, because there's nothing else like it.
Yeah,
there's just nothing else you're gonna buy that feels like it. There's the new Subarus are not like it at all.
There's no reason to get rid of it, and then when you want your fun car later, get rid of it then.
Yeah, or if the thing is if it's paid off, and you take it out and something happens to it, it's not like you're against the wall with a car payment and having to fix it. And I think that's the beautiful part about it. If you blow it up and you park and you're like, oh shit, I need to put 5,000 into it or 6,000, then you're really married to the car, but you're gonna have a car that is gonna be with you really long term. So I wouldn't even be afraid of that.
Speaking of GLI, Matt, we will be doing a new or mid-cycle update GLI versus Civic Si probably in the winter.
The GLI is gonna kill the Si.
In a straight line.
It's going to kill that car. I mean, I'm not hating on it at all.
It won't be track. It'll just be...
Yeah, I mean, no. I think it's going to obliterate the Si. The only issue is the GLI it's the sleeper car. It's the same thing we talked about with the Audi earlier, right? The RS5. There's nothing really wrong with it other than it's really very, very... what do you call it? It's not sedate, but...
You're going to say boring.
So understated
yeah.
to a fault almost. But I get that's why you like the GLI too and some of those. That's why I love the old Scirocco and all those original cars. They were like cool because of their cleanliness. But I don't know. That's a hard one.
All right, Chris, stop taking new questions. We're going to try to power through these because we have a lot left.
Chris, stop taking questions unless it's a $20,000 donation for the Murano Cross Cabriolet.
All right. Let's go through these. Josh, thank you for your $5. Do you think 5-cylinder engines have a place in modern car industry? Yes.
The RS3 is a kind of incredible example if they just fixed that car so it didn't understeer so much.
Which apparently they did with their mid-cycle update, which we will never drive because Audi
we'll
hates
drive
us.
it in 5 years.
We'll just as they're going to kill it. Royal for $5. Is current gen ES a better car in general than the discontinued GS? Yes.
I 75% agree with that, yeah.
The GS may look better.
The GS, I don't know. The GS is cool because it's definitely uniquely Japanese sedan. It's far more unique than the ES. But the ES is a better car to drive as a daily commuter.
As a luxury car.
Yeah, as a luxury car.
Because you're not driving a GS at the limit anyway.
No. It's in 10 years, people are going to look at the Lexus GS and they're like, wow, that was a really cool like Japanese sedan. People are going to like it because it was there was not a lot of them. You never see them. Do you ever see a GS?
No, when I do, they're always tchotched out.
Yeah, true.
Alphabach Broccoli, per usual, thank you very much. For 9/11, thank you. How's the goose business? Would you move to LA to host a donut hooligan show for $20,000 a month? I wouldn't. It'd be
didn't Hoonigan just go file for bankruptcy?
Yeah.
Going to?
Yeah.
Oh, it's another business I can come in, sweep in. Between the Lobster, what's the other one that I need to buy out?
You could buy Blockbuster.
Blockbuster, yeah. I'll just buy a bunch of. This is my next. Hey, if I had $1 billion, what garbage would I just buy up? I'm not saying Hoonigan and Donut are garbage, but I could come to the rescue.
I like tacos. I agree. Tacos are amazing. What is the absolute worst new car to buy today? ID4? No, I don't know.
Yeah, probably some of these horrible like first gen. Oh, BZ4RX, BZ4X.
We gave BZ4X the worst car last
and
year.
the Lexus equivalent.
RZ 450.
Yeah, all those. All
You buy
those,
it full price.
Yeah, you buy it full price, no incentives. Yeah, those two. Oh, what's the Soltara? The Subaru equivalent to the BZ4X.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Those probably, and it's not that they're horrible cars, but they're just not good cars. You know.
Did you have a Dodge Hornet or a BZ4X?
Dodge Hornet.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, that's how
I could say it's a Cayman and strut all the way around.
Seriously, I thought the Hornet was better than those cars, and that's
Because it's a masterpiece
by a
of engineering.
wide, not just by a little bit,
by
by
a
a lot.
wide
Yeah.
margin, yeah. MCL for $20. Hey guys, love the content as a younger viewer. Your coverage of new cars over the last few years convinced me to buy an IS300 Sport Cross. That's the wagon, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's the wagon. Is there
Those are
any
really rare?
Is there any early mid 2000s car you can think that deserves respect that gets a none? TL Type S. I love that car. I think it's still cool looking today.
Oh yeah. You're talking about 2003? No,
No, 2005, 2006, like that.
Oh, the
yeah.
next gen one.
Yeah, not the one I owned, the manual one. I thought that was a really cool car.
I'm trying to think if there's any other weird obscurities in that era. I say the GS. GS. I mean, I know.
Oh, the V8 GS,
Yeah.
the GS 400.
Yeah, I think so.
That was a cool car.
They're all like the sleeper. You know what? I'll say this one, and probably people aren't going to agree, but those older Maximas, the older
The
like,
SER.
yeah, I don't remember even what the older Maximas were
The
like
V6.
cool, had a cool factor to them, like because they were actually they drove good and they
Mercury
made
Marauder.
yeah. When you're getting to that level, I mean, you can get into some obscure ones, but if he likes an IS300, he's probably looking at Japanese ones. I don't know when they killed the RX-7, or sorry, RX-8. That had to have been 2003 era.
No, they didn't kill till early 20-teens.
Really?
Yeah.
RX-8?
RR3. I looked at one new when I was buying my first car.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I must have been that's right because it came out at the same time as S2000. So yeah, like that car, I think people slept on quite a bit.
Tim, for $10, do you think Lincoln will ever pull an
No.
actual revival like Genesis or Cadillac? Is doing truly unique from their? No, it's not. It's that they would have to have a leadership change to save Lincoln. Though
The Lincoln has gone completely like Chinese market stuff in Uber. Like it's total fleet car. The Nautilus that we drove.
the Aviator is the Exploder.
Yeah,
Nautilus is the front
The
wheel drive.
Nautilus thing is like, I don't want to. There's nothing wrong with it, but I mean, you can clearly tell their direction. Like, if they're going to be an American luxury car brand, I think that ship has sailed. I really do. Did you see the thumbnail?
Yeah, it was the car dripping cheese.
No, the new one.
What's the new one? Is it just cheese?
Yeah, let me take over the mouse for a second. Let Jack really experience this. Just ignore the pictures of my lovers.
Oh yeah, a bunch of Chevys.
Yeah, Chevys with RB. Well, it's technically not roast beef, but it could be.
All right, let's go back to some
Sorry.
real questions.
I don't even. It looks like a old Trailblazer.
No, that was
Was it old Trailblazers?
No, that was a Suburban Tahoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my GM's, my
Okay,
microchip
sorry.
activated.
Excuse me.
Done well
I'm
for
gonna get
$5.
backhanded.
What would you say to someone who wants to buy a GX 460, but will take it off-road seldom, if ever?
I don't know, dude. Go for it.
Yeah, it's never gonna break. You just get shitty fuel economy.
Just go for it.
The sound of V8 noise. Is the
It's
sound
not
of
like we're
reliability.
talking about like an X7 or something.
Yeah.
You know, like just do it.
Yeah.
Thank me later
When your car's
unhappy.
still working.
when you're
unhappy.
Hey, you said just do it.
Thank me when you're at the gas pump 4 times a month.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Scholarly Moose, Canadian, for $5 Canadian. Thank you. What is a more refined GR86? Is the base Cayman worth considering at its current price point?
No.
You know how cheap a base Cayman is now, though? A 718
40?
2-liter? Yeah, it's like $4,000.
$4,000?
Sorry, 40,000, yeah.
No.
Nah, fuck yeah, I would do that.
You're
Porsche,
Mr.
man.
Porsche. No.
What's a more refined GR86? It's a Porsche.
There's not a lot of those cars around. What else is in the two-door?
Driver's car. Challenger.
Yeah, Challenger.
Exact opposite car.
The jailbreak. I don't know. Yeah, there's nothing. You're right.
For
There's
some reason, I
nothing
thought it was called the jailbait, and I remember that.
jailbait. I'm surprised. That's probably what it originally was.
Yeah, an M240i. Someone just said that in the comments.
Yeah,
it's too big. The Supra's too big too.
the Supra is very big.
Like not big in that it's like a.
It doesn't have the nimbleness
Yeah.
that the GR86 has. The GR86 is like pure, old school.
Yeah, you can get a crappy 718 2-liter with higher mileage.
Dude, I still wouldn't do that. I don't think that's a big enough upgrade.
Yeah.
Like, look at what you did modification-wise to that 86, and look how incredible it was. I mean, for it wasn't a lot of money either.
No, it was not. I would redo that. And I would do the same thing. I just wouldn't do camber plates. I would just do the stock.
Or camber plates that actually worked properly.
Yeah. Hot 1LE for $5. Replace my 23 Camaro ZL1 with what?
ZL1 1LE.
Yeah,
That'd
pretty
be miserable.
Yeah. It'd be miserable on the street,
Yeah.
or keep it and have another car for daily, just looking for a change manual only.
Well, I mean, if your ZL1 is already paid off, then
The nothing. Just
there's not really much that's going to replace it. I mean, if you're swapping
have another
cars or
daily,
something.
or get a 1L,
GT500
but
is
you
the
manual only.
Oh, I didn't miss that part. There's not much.
Yeah, I love the ZL1. It speaks to me on every
I mean,
level.
I get why. If you're looking to do something else, like what about the
C7,
the
Z06.
Dark Horse?
Yeah, that would feel so slow compared to a ZL1,
Sure.
650 horsepower. Ugh.
Yeah, there's not a lot, man. I'm sorry.
Nothing real
Nothing
muscly
manual.
like that with manual.
No, I mean the manuals are, now you're getting up into like the Porsche price tag or the Amira, which is like a garbage can.
Yeah, you're basically going 911, which is a lot more money.
Yeah, no.
Or you're going to a C7
Yeah.
of some kind, which
Right.
is going to feel like a lateral move,
Unless you get, oh no, that's true.
unless you track.
Right. Yeah, you're stuck, dude. You already got the best.
Yeah, pretty much. Stephen Watkins, thank you for the $5. What's up with the Grand Cherokee drivetrain for 2025 and beyond? I hear they're getting rid of the V8 and moving to 4-cylinder turbo by default. Gross.
My news on Stellantis is on block, so anything that I get about that goes into the garbage can right now. But if that's true, that sounds great. I want a full-size SUV with a 4-cylinder.
A 4-cylinder from Stellantis.
Yeah, no, I don't know. That company's got. I'd be curious to see when they do their burn it to the ground that they're probably going to be doing.
Of
I'll
all
be
the
curious.
bullets I've dodged, not working for Stellantis outside of university as an engineer is definitely a big one.
No, you would have been a god. You would have had.
I
Like,
would have made the jailbait
you would,
version.
yeah, you would have. You would have had the gorilla jailbait version. It would be just like this big gorilla holding a girl under his arm as like the logo on the side.
Wonka for $5. I find myself slowly becoming a car guy as cars get ever closer to just being boring appliances. Is it still worth learning to drive a manual?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
worth it. It'll open up a whole new world for you. I think that's the thing is when you get bored.
Ever see Aladdin when they're riding on the
magic carpet?
Yeah,
It's
that's
not-
how you'll feel.
It's not going to be
No,
like
it'll
that.
feel exactly like that. First time you drive a Fiesta manual.
Cars
base.
have a slope, right? Like a graduation point. You can, there if you don't drive a lot of cars, it makes it. You can spread this out over like 20 years of car guyism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, getting a manual opens up a new door of like trying different manuals, and then you find one you like, and you go through years of that. And I think it's a good way to do it.
Oh, thoughts on Caterhams? I drove a Caterham in Seattle owned by a very, very nice gentleman who let me drive a 480. Great car, just like your Ariel Atom, just better, I think.
Probably.
And then Cobalt. I would love to drive a Cobalt SS.
I mean, I almost bought one. I know I said that before, the turbocharged variant. I was blown away by that car when I drove it. And I drove it at night, so I couldn't see what it looked like. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta have one. And I came back the next day and I just looked at it. And I remember opening up the trunk and seeing the welding and the epoxy or whatever, the resin that they put in the trunk to
Yeah,
like
that's
seal
like
it, and it
quality.
looked like somebody just squeezed the tube of resin in their armpit and it just splattered all over it. It was like the worst build quality ever, and I'm like, I just can't do it. But it drove great. It really did drive great for the era, right? Clearly,
Yeah.
we're talking about the era it came out in.
JPZ 89 for 888. What car have you each owned for the longest and or have put the most miles on? 2006 RX-7 RSX Type S, owned since 2009, 175,000 miles and counting. What's the longest you've owned a single car, Mark?
Probably the original Insight,
How long did you own that?
like 5 years.
How many miles?
6 years, maybe. I got it with 5,000, and I had almost 175,000 on it when I got rid of it.
Holy
Yeah,
crap.
I drove that car. Like, I can't believe how much I drove that car.
The longest I've owned anything is my Triumph motorcycle. I still own it. It's a 2013 or 14, and so now it's 10 years. Crazy. And then the car I put the most miles on was that Mustang that I beat the shit out of. I
yeah.
think that had like 70,000 miles. But I go through cars so quick.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I know my original Civic too was through the ringer. I probably had that from 2000 and Jesus, what was it? 2000 and Oh no, dude, what am I thinking? My brain doesn't work with time anymore. I had it in 1999. I did it in 99 to probably 2010. So that's probably the longest time I ever owned a car, but that wasn't mileage-wise. I never got really high in mileage like the Insight.
Alex, thank you for the $5. Dominic, thank you for the $5. Turk, thank you for the $5. Thank you for the $20.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Tank M. Canterson, sorry, I screwed up your name, bought a 2020 CT5 550T in February. Thoughts, including roast, a bad decision for a family man over 6 foot, needing a seat 4 to 5. Winter tire recommendations, or sell for a better sports sedan for around $50K. If you like it, man, I mean, congrats.
That's the size thing is a big reason why I understand that one. The CT5 it's
big car.
Yeah, it's big.
Your other option is a.
You got to be able to get it for pretty cheap too.
Oh, he already owns it.
Oh, okay.
He
sorry.
bought it for 2020.
Oh, okay,
sorry.
gotcha.
Winter tire recommendations, or sell for.
Blizzaks. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of the default option.
Not only because we're sponsored by Bridgestone, but if you, particularly as a rear drive car, I can't remember if 550 is all wheel drive or not. You're going to want a more aggressive snow tire. The only the only thing about Blizzaks is at high speed.
Yeah, they have a lot of noise.
And they have a lot of squirm.
Yeah, there's a lot of tread squirm because I think they're 12, 30-second tires, so they do have a lot of tread. But honestly, in the winter, one of the things I really liked, because I've gone through every winter tire. Yeah, I went through all of them through the years because the Blizzaks are always the most expensive, at least in the tire size I had. The one thing I did like going from a firmer car is it did soften it up quite a bit, but the tire noise bothered me more than anything. But what do you want? Do you want to get through snow, or do you want to have like the LM22s? Do you remember the LM22s?
Yeah. I had them on the Mustang.
I hated those because they were supposed to be like a performance winter tire, and I would rather have the noise and the tread depth versus like the loss of traction to have that. So. Yeah, just go for full-blown winter tires. Don't mess around with the performance ones. Just get something with a lot of meat.
The only family sedan for that price point I'd replace the CT5 with, honestly, is the M540i.
Yeah, true.
That car is amazing for the money because you get one all day long in the mid 40s with a warranty.
Yeah, exactly. If you're that's the only other option, but you already own the
Caddy.
the Cadillac. You're like Jack.
You GM
You gotta have the GM.
Turk for $5. New IS500 RCF or TLX. IS500 RCF TLX Type S. If reliability is your top priority.
IS500.
Yeah, probably.
I would say IS500 first because it's unique but least usable. TLX is not the biggest car in the back seat, but it's more usable. That would be a tie. No, actually, IS500, TLX Type S, and RCF last, because RCF is, it's a coupe.
Yeah, and it's I don't think it looks very good.
It doesn't drive very good either.
And so the IS500 is just a soft boat that goes sideways. It's really fun.
Yeah, but at least it rides great.
Yeah.
You know, it is the softest of the three. It rides the best. It's the most refined, and it's just rear-wheel drive. The Type S will get you through any condition on the street. It really does drive great. It's the most usable, probably, of the three. It's just, you don't have the engine. The transmission is average, but it looks cool, right? I mean, it's the best, one of the best-looking sedans.
Yeah, the M340i, but it won't have the reliability in 10 years of the IS500, probably.
Yeah.
Steve Kelso for $20. I really appreciate. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate all that you do between the videos and the candid chats. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Brian, thank you for the $10. Always loved your content. Keep it up. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
BioBrat86, thank you. Not looking for the super cars, but the Econo boxes too. We'll try to do both.
I mean, this is the thing, like, what dominates the media? Expensive cars, right? So, you know, and I don't want to call out names, and I see this on Instagram all the time. There's so many people that all they would do is, and this is kind of going to sound shitty, but a lot of these people, they don't have any money. You know, they don't make a lot of money, and they're not rich. And what's almost all the pictures of them? They're standing by supercars. It's like, I hate that.
From the media side.
I hate it, right? Because that's not real life. So yes, do we want to learn about like the Porsches and all these expensive cars and the engineering? Yes. But, you know, like the Civic Hybrid we just did, most important car that I've done in like 4 or 5 months. Like, because I know people are, you know, can actually buy it. It's a car that somebody would buy. And those types of cars I get excited by almost more than the specialty ones.
T, thank you for your $5. I'm going to answer this. Any recommendations for S2000 shops in the Midwest? Don't go to Minnesota, Illinois, or Indiana. Go straight to Wisconsin. Go to Scott at King Motorsports. He's in New Berlin. It's the only Mugen shop in the U.S., and he's been working on Honda stuff since before Jesus.
Yeah, it really.
And super good guy.
There's like, you know, you have to really go out of state after that. I mean, there's other places that can work on S2000.
But Midwest.
I mean, you know, they don't specialize in S2000 like they do with some of the other Hondas, but they definitely will. They know them. They have them on the lift all the time.
And they've raced them. They've done everything.
Yeah, they've done a lot with them. So I would agree with Jack on that for sure.
Be easy for $5. My midlife crisis is in full effect. Would you choose overpaying for an S2000 or an RF Miata C7 Stingray or Bullet Mustang, or case swapping my MR2?
Oh man. Those are so, like, the S2000 and the Miata debate is just, that's never going to end.
I think the C7's way more car.
It's so much different than those cars. But if you're coming from an MR2, there's no way in hell he's going to like driving a Mustang Bullet.
Oh yeah, the Bullet, I knock off that list right away.
I mean, unless you're really at heart like that big boaty rear wheel drive V8 person, I just don't see how you get in there and be like, yeah, I gotta have
Split the difference, C7.
Yeah, C7 is more in the middle.
Or S2000 over the RF.
Yeah, if you can find one that's not
Chotched out.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Anrup, thank you for the $5.
Thank you.
Haisa for $5. Best audio system in recent cars.
Okay, I was just
under 100K.
I was just thinking about this because somebody asked me. So the two best. To be fair, you can get these for under 100K. The best that we tested was the XC90 Bowers, statically parked. The iX Bowers in the BMW tests better. It's probably the best one that we've tested, and it sounds almost as good as the Volvo, if not better. They're very, very close. Mm-hmm. Then from there, the Burmester we just did in that Mercedes tested very, very well, and it sounded pretty good. It doesn't sound as good as it's tested. And then from there, it's just a crapshoot. Like the LC500 tests very, very well, but it does not sound anywhere near as good as it tests. So some of these are, they're going to be a crossover. Basically, anything with a Bowers in it is almost one of your best options.
Be easy. Yes, the Bullet does look great. I just don't think you'll enjoy driving it.
The new Bullet, like the old one or the new one?
The new one, the one we drove.
The new one does look good.
Yeah, it just doesn't drive that great.
It doesn't drive great. Does that have the MT? Is it MT82?
MT82. It's on the Tremec. Yeah.
Okay, all right. that I think, wasn't that the one that had the lockout, like it wouldn't
Yeah.
go into gear?
Yep.
That's what killed that car for me.
Edwin, thank you for the $10. Is a Mini Cooper JCW manual used for 30K a fun daily autocross, better bang for buck than spending 15K more?
This guy's a joke.
I know.
It's over here too,
Perfect.
because I work with redundancies, Jack.
Oh, should make myself redundant. Stop cam too, right?
Yeah.
Is a Mini? Let me rephrase that. Edwin, thank you for your $10. Is a Mini Cooper JCW 6-speed manual used for 30K a fun daily autocross car, better bang for buck
Yes.
than spending 15 grand more for a Type R?
Yes.
Really?
It's just not going to be reliable as much.
Would
But
you buy a JCW for
I
that
love
money?
the Mini Cooper driving it. I think they are amazing. They're totally underrated, but you're not going to get the reliability.
It's a B48 in that, right? It's the BMW 2
The
liter.
new one, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get them for 30 grand already.
Dude, they drive great. I would say, buy it right. Be careful with that buy. Know what you're getting into and make sure you can get out of it.
Thank you for your $14. Aram down. Thank you for being so brutally honest with the car reviews and keeping it real. Thanks for not being the Marcus Brownlee of car reviews. You guys know your shit. Please review the new Porsche Panamera. We did one. I did one with Chris where I maxed it out on the Autobahn. We're supposed to be getting the SC Hybrid Turbo or GTS sometime in the future. I appreciate the kind words though.
The MKBHD thing that's a tricky one because his thing is it's always been tech reviews and he's gotten into the car stuff because of the electrification part.
He likes cars.
He likes cars. It's just like I don't know how you juggle that load. And we're like, if we had to do tech stuff and car reviews, one of them would suffer greatly. Like seriously suffer. So car stuff is, as you know, it's so complicated to shoot and learn about. There's so many moving parts versus doing tech. That's the only reason I think we're still in this because it's hard to do and it's not easy for people to like do this stuff.
Six stringer, I think we answered this already. The Spider RS.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you for the $10.
Yeah, thank you very much.
En route for $10, considering moving from my FK8 Type R LE to either a Camaro SS1LE Supra or 718 Cayman S, will be a daily driver in autocross twice a month. Thoughts?
Oh,
Daily.
daily driver. Yeah, that makes it trickier.
Supra and SS1LE are rough because of the visibility.
First thing I was going to say is 718 Cayman S, but if you're coming out of a Type R and you're expecting low running costs, that's not a car that's going to have low running costs. You have to do anything on it. It's
Unless you have a warranty.
It's going to be a lot of work
Yeah.
to work on it. The Camaro is going to be pretty easy to work on, and the Supra is going to be no work. Like literally, you're safe with that engine and transmission in that car. It's just the visibility sucks.
It's even worse than the Camaro.
It is. So I mean, here's your level of probably the best car of the bunch would be the SS1 Elite, Supra, and then 718, and then you flip backwards for like probably Joy to drive. The Cayman would be the best, but most risky.
Yeah, and then the Camaro SS1LE and Supra are very different. The Supra's faster than the 1LE is.
Yeah, it's the
Wood
Supra's,
with tires.
The Supra is so fast, man. Like it's ridiculously fast. It's just not the most rewarding car to drive.
I would take an SS1LE to drive over a Supra any day of the week.
Yeah, the SS1 Elite definitely is that's the middle ground. That's what I would choose as well.
But the 718 would be a great daily. Babooey for $5. I have an SS1LE for my weekend car, looking at a manual Mark 8 GTI for daily. Any other manual suggestions? Civic Si, Elantra N. Those are your options.
What about a used Golf R if he's already coming up from a GTI?
You probably get a Mark 7 Golf R. That might not be a bad idea. Did you ever drive that car as a manual or only as a dual clutch?
I probably drove them both.
Yeah, I don't.
I always remember them being incredibly capable.
And good dailies.
Yeah, it's got the same thing it's not as bad as a GLI because it's got those cars have a lot of character for what they are. They're like the true hot hatch.
Thank you, C, for your $10. Could you talk or make an audio system models by tiers? A compilation of frequency response graphs that some videos have would be a great start.
Here's the problem with this is right. We kind of did it because we wanted to do it. And then it wasn't thought about like what the long-term goal was. It was just like, let's test audio in these cars. And I failed on two parts. I should have a website that's searchable with all the graphs in the car audio. That absolutely has to get done. The second thing is, you're right, I need to make a follow-up video about audio testing and annually update it. Like, here's the cars we've tested. So that's really, we have to update our website now.
We are updating it anyway for the t-shirts.
Yeah, we have to add e-commerce to be able to sell the shirts, or at least take orders from them so they can get manufactured. So in that same time point, that's a good place for me to work on the audio stuff. So message heard, that's my fault. I have not made it a priority, and it's always on the back of my head.
The other part too is, well, you'll have a good resource to look at all this crap. As we found many times, the tests don't always match the ear.
Yes, and you know, I guess that's the honesty part of it. I think we do a good job about that. I don't think anybody really talks about car audio. It's very rare. I've seen, there's one guy that started a channel of testing car. He takes every press car, every car, and he does.
I know the guy you're talking about.
He just drives it though.
Yeah.
And the people, he does a binaural mic so people can hear what the audio system sounds like.
But it's super misleading.
But that doesn't make, and it's the same thing audio reviewers say, how can you hear what a speaker sounds like through the microphone of something?
Yeah,
it makes no sense, but that's what he's doing. But other than that, I don't know anybody that actually tests it and then has objective, subjective listening tests. And that's always the tricky part with audio system gear reviews is that part is the ear, everybody's ear is different and everybody's ear is trained differently. You know, if you get a classical musician, or like Rick, right? The guy, you know, somebody that spent his whole life producing music and playing music, they're gonna have a much different ear than somebody who's never played a guitar or played drums and has no ear. So I really try to focus more on the testing part and just a little bit of the subjective part, and I need to figure out a way to...
You both come slightly from a music background. I mean, at the risk of sounding like an Asian stereotype, I played cello for 10 years.
Yeah, I know.
You played drums.
I played a lot of instruments. Yeah. I was never good at them, though. You know, like I have an ear for music, but I'm not particularly great at playing them.
Chris, Chinface, he always tells me this drunkenly, but I know it's true. I think he was like second or third best double bassist in the state of Illinois.
Really?
Yeah, when he was in high school or university, I can't remember.
Really?
Yeah, he was a great double bassist, apparently.
Wow.
It's funny, because he's not a particularly huge person, so picturing him with a double bass is hilarious.
Yeah, no doubt. But again, right, this is different. You know, this is what we're talking about, is like the graphs are very, very good at objectively testing to see what they're doing from an engineering perspective. But it's misleading because if you're on the highway and you're in a shitbox economy car that tests good statically, and then you put it out at 55 miles an hour on concrete pavement, that audio system is going to sound like ass. So it's really difficult to tell somebody 100% this is a great audio system, which I do think we need a leaderboard. Like the reason why to be honest,
fastest audio system in the West.
Fastest audio system. But like that XC90 comment, right? Like it's great statically, and it's really good below 55 miles an hour. And the iX is the same way. They're incredible audio systems moving as well because the cars are isolated. But the Civic's a great audio system until you start driving the car.
Yeah, that's awful. Like even the ITS, like it's quieter, but it doesn't matter because you can't hear anything.
Right.
Mario, thank you for your $5. You're very kind. Paint Flow Exception for $5. Have you considered any kind of off-roading series, taking a Land Cruiser or 4Runner and running it through off-road paces, maybe a few upgrades over time?
The straight answer is no.
Because where we live.
Where we live becomes very problematic, and to get a brand to give us a car that's likely going to get broken would be very difficult, and I definitely have no purpose of buying.
Our Bridgestone friends, Davis, really good guy. He keeps trying to invite me out to do some off-roading trip with him. I'd love to do it. Off-roading's really fun. I like high-speed off-roading.
Yeah, Baja style stuff. Yeah,
monkey time.
Like when we were in the dunes and we're just going flat out.
Yeah.
And you're just doing an oval, like spinning, trying to. Yes, that's different. But once you actually do real off-roading, that's much different.
This is the closest of us have been come to getting killed by another journalist. Some guy almost rolled the Ranger Raptor by debeating the tire while I was in it. That was real exciting. But Yeah, off-roading's fun. I just not the biggest fan of rock crawling. You describe it as rock crawling in a press event, as like driving through a broken parking lot.
No, that's all it is. It's miserable. I mean, but that's, to be fair, we're in this like fake
Yeah.
manufactured environment to keep people from suing them. You know, so it's just like under that level. So
No,
it's
the
just more
Jeep stuff though
tedious.
was extreme.
No, the Jeep stuff was extreme.
Rungus, thank you for your $10. 750i BMW from 2020 or 2021 Lexus LS 500. Looking for a low mileage used one,
The problem with the LS 500 is the engine.
but it will work unlike the
Well,
750.
yeah, I guess, good point. I mean, I don't know.
I take the 7 Series and roll the dice. Then don't call me when it bankrupts you.
Well, yeah, what's the better
Lose
car?
my number.
The 7 Series is a better car. No, 100% Lexus botched the LS 500 totally. But if you're buying it as a used one, because it is cheap as hell, dude, like unbelievably good deals for that. If you're okay with the engine, then you're probably going to like it. I just don't feel like it's as refined, like as a luxury car experience. From what you expect from the LS badge, you would think that car would be far more refined, and I think it lacks the isolation, it lacks the luxury car stuff that BMW does better. But, you know, again, it's what you are looking for in a car.
Subs, thank you for the $5. Thanks for the SS1LE video. Based on your brief experience, what mods would you make? Brakes, tires, any comments on being stolen so easily? First off, huge thanks to Mike and honestly Nathan from Auto Tempest for making that SS1LE video happen. What mods would I make? I spent way more time in that car than Mark did.
See, I don't think, did I even drive that car on the street?
No, you only drove in track.
I mean, I'd driven it before on the street,
Yeah.
like a long time ago. I mean, it's a Camaro.
What mods did you make? Not a whole lot. I probably figured out how to keep the oil cooler so it doesn't go in the oystering system setup. Maybe if you wanted to make the engine make more power, you could do that. Make it make more power.
Mm-hmm.
But out of the box, it's pretty great. Them being stolen super easily, it's
Build 3 garages. A garage inside a garage with a progressively
Russian
more,
doll, or a nesting doll.
progressively more severe security system. Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with like these specialty cars now. Like that car should not be stolen. You know, it's the sad part of where we're at. One of the few true affordable, fun to drive cars that's like American is now like a liability.
yeah. One guy just got stolen out of the Chevy dealer that services my Z06. It got driven out of the showroom through the glass. They cloned the key and they drove it like.
Like what I talked about with the Wienermobile, me
Yeah.
driving it through my ex-wife's house. Like
But
full
this time
speed.
it's through the glass.
My
yeah.
third ex-wife's house.
They had a Z06 stolen, a new one, stolen out of their showroom, and then they had but that one's, they found the key and they stole it that way. They just took the key, but they cloned the key for the Camaro and it got stolen. I know a couple people who worry about their cars, having talked to some other people, not that it's foolproof. Well, the easiest way not to have your car stolen, at least at night, is having it parked in your garage. Not that it still won't happen, but it's better than at least
I'm going
parking
to tell
on the
you
street.
something Scott said that makes more sense. Is you have a kill switch installed and hidden. It's way easier. You just you have a kill switch to the fuel pump, and you're done. No, then nobody can do shit. You get in the car. Yes, you're going to lose your keyless entry. I'm sorry, but if you're that worried about it, no thief is going to go through the time to pull like the wiring out to find out where you've traced your kill switch and
Yeah, not at the time I have.
Yeah.
Henry, thank you for the $5. Considering a 23 330E for $35,000, looking at a 25 Camry equivalent that doesn't have a CVT, reliability is a +2. I'd take the BMW for 35 grand over a Camry.
I wouldn't.
Basically a brand new 3 Series for 35 grand over a Camry.
I wouldn't.
Really? Why?
At that price point, I don't want a BMW. I want a car that works forever. You know, when you're talking about like a luxury car experience, it's different. So like at a $50,000 price point, no, I'm not buying a Camry. I'm buying a BMW.
But for 35 grand, I guess you're right.
Yeah, I just
The running costs are like nothing.
Yeah, sorry, that's just kind of my feeling on it.
Sorry, Josh. Pray for me when I have to go to Tennessee tomorrow.
You're going Bass Pro.
I'm always going to go Bass Pro. Kevin for $5. Looking at getting a new CUV, thinking top trim HRV seems like the best bang for buck. Any thoughts? I already have a fun car to drive. I would, if you're going to spend 35 grand, I would get a used CX-50, used CRV.
I don't really understand the HRV thing.
I don't either.
I don't particularly get that. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's kind of.
Well, get a Civic. Just get a base Civic hatch. I feel like it's a better car than the HRV. The HRV is let down by the 2-liter. I drove that thing at its launch program. You weren't there. I was in Sonoma Pass in the Washington or Oregon area. It was, it's a fine car. I would just, if you can afford getting a used CRV or RAV4, I would take that over the HRV.
I'd be curious, not to say there's anything wrong with it, but I'd be curious because there's so much competition in that space. Why, what else? Trying to your point, like the CX-30 doesn't look very good. Drives way better than the HRV.
Yeah, I would get a CX-30 over an HRV too.
To your point, the Civic hatch. There's a lot of options.
I would get an HRV.
You're not going to go wrong with an HRV, but like I thought about what about a used RDX? You can get them all day long. I mean,
How much is used RDX? 30?
30s.
Oh.
I mean, HRV is going to be in the 30s loaded, I'm sure. I mean, I would rather have an RDX over an HRV if you're talking about a small CUV.
At that point, you might as well just go used.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at that, but I'm saying just don't lock yourself in the HRV until you drive some of the competition. That's all.
Quantum Donut, thank you for the $10. Thank you for the live stream and your thorough videos. Good night and get some sleep. I will assure you I will be doing that after this.
Thank you. I will not. I'm going to be lifting weights all night.
Michael, for $10. I bought an IS 350 a year ago. I want something that gives a sportier feel. Would an F87 M2 comp fill that need? Thoughts on upgrading to an IS 500? Need back seats and will be a daily driver.
Well, the IS 500 is not going to give you more sporty driving feel. All that is an engine. It's not enough to transform the car. It's still soft. So you got to go to something like the M2 or the M2 comp. That's such a big step up there.
In performance.
Yeah, such a big step up. I mean, it's not that I like it better, but if you're, if you're saying what I like, I'd like an IS 500 just because I like it's more cush. I don't need it to be crazy, steering wise, but it's not going to scratch that itch if you're looking for more.
Sporty.
Yeah.
You get an M3 too. Honestly, I think F80 M3s, if you're willing to stay dual clutch or like automatic, you can get them for in the 40s or 50s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Man, got 4 questions left. All right. Oh, fuck. We got 5 questions left. YouTube user for $5. You have $200K to spend on 3 cars. Running cost is free forever. What 3 cars are you buying?
I don't know. This is the most common question I feel like people ask. What's your ideal 3-car garage?
For 200 grand. Running costs are, man. All right. That's a hard one for 200,000. I roll them all into one GT3. No, man, I would probably do C7 Z06 because that's 80 grand. Because I want a manual. Running costs are free forever. I get a F80 M3 or an E92, and then some SUV pile to scratch all 3. What would you do if you had 200 grand?
For the shitty SUV hauler would be an IX.
Dude,
And I would buy used.
What are they, 50 grand?
No, a fully loaded with everything is 60 grand. Under
Were they
that.
130,000?
There was 120,000. So
All right,
you could
so
get for 60 grand.
You have 140 grand left.
Then I would do probably GT4 RS.
No, that's not that's a $200,000 car.
Can't you find them used?
No.
No, really?
Yeah, GT4 RS is worth more used than new.
Oh, okay, well.
If you have 140 grand left, you get
wasn't that car 150 when we first drove it?
It was the first one I was going to order, I think, was loaded to 174. But that's sticker.
Wasn't it 150 though when we started doing this? Because the GT3 was 160.
Yeah, it was 150 starting.
So you can't find it for 150 anymore?
Nope.
All right, my life's over. Dude, I have no idea. I mean, it's gonna probably just be the same ones.
Would you still get an NSX NA1 for 90 grand if you just had that money lying around or not?
Sure. I mean, if I have to pick cars for my garage right now, I guess IX, NSX.
For 40 grand, what would be left? S2000?
Yeah, I don't know, probably not. I already have that car, so I don't have to buy it again. I don't know. I really don't. I never think about this stuff.
Yeah, because it's basically irrelevant.
I don't think about it. I'm sorry.
Be easy. No more questions. That chin face for $2.
You got you, bro. You smoked, you fool.
Collie for $5. I'm deciding between a Tucson or a CX-50 for a premium SUV. Ugh.
Oh. It's a tough choice, man.
Tucson isn't going to work. I get a CX-50.
Tucson's probably a better SUV. Like everything else, but
Tucson the box? No, that's the Santa Fe.
no, the Tucson they just updated again. Actually, you know what? Pull up in the start a new tab, or I can pull it up on here. Because I think isn't the new Tucson the one they totally effed up? It looks horrible.
I'd probably get the CX-50 Premium Plus. One of the worst things about mine is our long-termers, it's on 20s. That will be on 18s. Oh no.
The interior is good.
God, the Tucson is ugly.
I can't get over the way that that thing looks.
Imagine
dude.
waking up and looking at that every morning.
I mean, the front is okay, but I don't know, man. You don't live on the outside of it. It's an SUV. The interiors, to me, is better on the Hyundai. Anyway, delete this guy. Bam. No, I know it. Like I was telling a couple of my lady friends, my fans. There's like 60 of them. They show up in my. So when I leave every morning from my house, there's women with signs in front of the house,
of course,
because they're my fans. And I'm like, hey, ladies, what do you want to talk about this morning before I go to work? Oh, wait, I don't have a traditional job. I can go in and sit whenever I want because I'm a business owner, right? So they're like, oh, yeah, that's so cool. So I watched a video with them from 4 years ago when we were doing some drive, and I had no gray, just in 4 years. So, yes, Jack is causing this.
This is from our Discord. So many moons ago, I said we had a Discord.
Which
we
we
still
do.
have a Discord. Chin is in it all the time. I'm in there sometimes. Mark's in there even less. But we really do try to interact with you guys. You guys seem to like the E-Class a lot. This is from Big Chungus. Did you get to drive the 6-cylinder? We did not. Between the E-Class and the new 5 Series, ignoring the infotainment, which would you rather have? We drove the 4-popper 5 Series, and you just drove the E-Class. What would you rather be in? They're both 4-poppers. Remember the green
I
one?
love the way the E-Class drives. I think it drives great. It just, the fucking interior.
Ignoring the interior. 5 Series or
But the interior, I have to rule out the interior?
Yeah.
Because it ruins the car.
He hates both of them.
Then the Mercedes. The Mercedes drives better as a luxury car, for sure.
So yes, we do have a Discord. If you're a Patreon, you get access to it. On that note, best full-size luxury sedan under $60,000.
5 Series. Or, no, the Lucid Air. The Lucid Air is 70.
And the new 5 Series is over $60K too.
I'm thinking used. I always think about used.
He's saying used. 550iM or whatever it's called. M550i, right?
Yeah, the M550i, like 2022 or 23 with the V8 is the best sedan you can get for the money. It's like almost $50,000.
You're great V8.
Dude, it's just everything about that car is great for that money until you have to repair it. But it's a special car.
Bronco Raptor or F-150R for off-roading plus daily driving?
The Raptor R.
V8.
Raptor R, 100%.
V8.
The thing is, the Raptor R is more isolated too. You know, like it's more refined. Like you can do all the crazy shit with it. You have a V8, and it still doesn't drive you crazy. The Bronco still feels like
a Bronco.
A Bronco, and it grates on you some of the refinement that it doesn't have as a daily driver. Of course.
And you can do rolling burnouts in your Raptor R.
Yes.
And your $2,000 tires in the rear. Marco, thank you for the $10. Fellow Chicago suburbanite here. Considering our roads, can someone fully enjoy a car like a Cayman or a Miura? Or would you go with something a little bit more heft and faster in a straight line?
So we just talked about this today with the Audi, and one of the things, the problems with cars is the BMWs are great, but they're so overkill fast. Like for our area, you can never really utilize all that speed, and that becomes a real drag on it. When the party trick is the fact that it is fast in a straight line. Other than that, you're not really feeling much in those cars. The Cayman is one of the better driving cars. Like literally just this. You have fun. Like it really, it's the way that the car is so snappy.
You don't have great roads here to enjoy.
You don't have great, but you still feel connected to the car. It's still fun to drive. The Amira, just rule that out. So like I would do a Cayman first because they're available. You can get them fairly easy. There's not like super sought after.
The non-6 cylinders are pretty easy to get.
Okay.
The one thing I will say about any of the things here, if you're never going to track, the appeal of going fast in a straight line is great out here. Because to your point, there are not good roads here. Marco, if you buy any of them, take them to Autobahn, or get, which is obviously who we're going to say. There's also Black Hawk Farms.
Yeah.
You should, if you're going to buy a sports car out here because the roads suck, you owe it to yourself to at least do like a driving experience in HPDE, do something like that.
Yeah, and even
you're gonna
like
spend all that money on that
us
car.
screwing around like these not fabricated videos, but our videos where it's like these bursts of speed on like back roads. It's no replacement for it. Like you can't safely go out and have fun with these cars. Anything over like 400 horsepower is just you can't do anything with them. You need to get to like 7
At least
or
do
8.
it on autocross or do something with them.
And it's a really tough one.
And I would rather take a Cayman over the Amira and the M2 for like an autocross or a track
Yeah,
day.
agreed. I'd rather have some lower horsepower car that's super fun.
Oh man, we have a lot more questions. A couple more questions. Wow. Holden, 2020 M550i with 25,000 miles, single owner, clean Carfax, clean bill of health from a third party, pre-purchase inspection. Am I crazy? Thanks for the $5, Holden. Great car. Hopefully it has a warranty.
Yeah, so those cars were pretty solid. I think that was the year they pulled, depending on the year that they pulled them out, they were starting to become COVID cars. I think those still had most of the features. One thing you can do is you can make a pitch to a couple BMW dealerships. If you go in, you go to the service department, be like, look, I really need your help. Give them the VIN and see if they'll break down and tell you what the service history is. Be like, I'm really nervous about buying this car and I'm going to bring it to you for service. Can you tell me if this thing has had an engine out or something catastrophic before you buy it? That's one checkpoint you can do with it. If you don't see any service history on Carfax or Experian, whatever that one's called, like usually they'll have checkpoints if it's been at a dealership for major service. So look at those as well and see. But as a single owner car, I know a lot of those M50Is, people didn't drive them much. I think that's why I always talk about them as being a good deal, because they were like one owner leases and they were not driven a lot. So you can find them with lower miles pretty safely, and there's not a lot to go wrong with them, assuming the other thing is make sure that the oil was changed, like not once. Make sure that there's
2020 was N63 TU3 or whatever it was called.
It got, I think the 2020 years when it got the updated engine, the TU3. So it should be pretty solid. But anyway, that's just some things for you to look at. I personally wouldn't be too worried about it.
BMW builds for $10. I've been looking get outside of BMW and into a Mercedes wagon. E63S is the dream, but an E400 is half the cost. Is the E400 half the car? Have a 4-person family.
Well, you're never going to replace the engine.
Yeah.
That's what makes those things.
It's like is a M3 twice the car of a 330. It's
right.
the same.
Yeah. You're not going to replace that. Is it half the car? I think 90% of the time. Well, I'm sorry. About 80% of the time, you're never going to notice. It's that 20% you're like, oh man, I really missed that. But like we were just talking about, between the E-Class and the BMW, right? Like the E-Class is an amazing driving car if you forget about the tech, and it just drives great. And that's what you're doing most of the time. You just want it to eagerly steer, comfortable, quiet as hell. That's what those things do well.
Troy S for $5. Thoughts on the Aperta, and will it make it into production this time?
The
Aptera, sorry.
So I think I said this in the last live stream. I had money down for the first one when they went bust the first time. Based on what I've seen of the latest videos of their builds, and I don't want to kick them, because what they're trying to do, I get what they're trying to do. But if you look at what those things are right now and where they're at on the software side and how many people have to work on them, they look like tin cans. They to me are still far away from where it should be as a production car with a lot of it. I want to say that I think it will make it to production, but I just don't see it being around for very long. I just has the same problem it did when it first came out. Now they're just trying to put everything in a screen, trying to improve the battery. Everything's better about it. It's just such a niche car in a era that people are already kind of like poo-pooing electric cars and stuff. I hope they make it, but I think it's going to be hard.
Bob Vandell for $100. Thank you, Bob. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate that, though, very much. M2 comp prices aren't falling. Should I hold or sell and get a used BRZ and a pocket full of cash for tires, track days, and an IAG block? Use my funds to buy enough hymns to get a sponsorship. Well, thank you again, Bob, for the $100.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Hymns. Man. Yeah, M2 comps are, I think, like 50 grand still, 55 grand.
That's crazy.
They've held their value really well.
I never understood it, but whatever.
People don't like the G87, right? Because the way it looks and everything.
I mean,
the thing about your M2 currently is you can, like, it depends where you're at. If you just want to go to the track, drive, and leave, you can do that with the M2 and go really quick and do all that. The BRZ, you could run that car for a third of the cost probably for track days at least. But if you start modifying, it will not be the same experience. You do an IAG block and you build it out, you're going to be dealing with shit that you don't have to deal with the M2. So
yeah, the thing is like, you're trading one for another that you're going to wind up having to sink all that money into to make it somewhat near the same experience. I mean, the BRZ compared to the M2, I think, is a better driving car, stock versus stock. But when you're building it out to that point, it's just completely you're basically getting rid of the point.
You think the M2 drives worse than the BRZ?
I think the BRZ is a better driving car.
But on track, it's so slow.
No, but I'm not talking about track. I'm just talking about in general dynamics. It's a better driving car, but the engine is, you can't compare them back to back because the engines are so horribly different. But I mean, in terms of a driving experience, you don't flip the M2 to go buy a car that's half the price just to rake it back up, blow all that money to modify just so it's close to the M2 in terms of performance. Or, I think you have to live with the fact that you're buying a BRZ to save, to get that extra cash and just enjoy it for what it is. If you can't enjoy it for what it is, I wouldn't do it personally. I mean, I've been there.
Or do the middle ground, sell it for almost 60 grand or whatever you can sell it for. Buy an SS1LE for 35,000.
Oh, here we go.
By GM Microchip, 15 grand to play with. I mean,
that sounds like bad advice.
Mary Barra told me to say that to you, Bob.
That's what's on the screen right now.
It's just Mary Barra's.
You can't see anything, but the GM logo just popped through the screen.
Subs, thank you again, man, for $20.
Yeah, thank you.
Just want to thank you folks again for making the 1LE video. Probably watch it 500 times to get some sleep.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. No, Jack was really pushing to do that, and that was my fault for not getting it out sooner.
Bob brought this up again. I've had two BRZs, including a 2018 TS and the 2022 with a 2.4 liter. Had two M2s. Miss the lightness when I'm in the BRZ. But I miss being able to climb a hill.
Yeah, that's really it. Can you live with the engine? Right? That's always been the 86 or whatever you want to call them. That's always been the thing.
You always supercharge or turbocharge your BRZ, but then you're going to run into a group of problems you never had with the M2, which is that
if you already have an M2 paid off and it's worth something, just keep it. You're not. And if you're just looking to get something new, like just to get out of it, to modify the BRZ, I just don't think it's a good idea. You're better off Turoing the car, borrowing it from somebody, borrowing, stealing, just to drive for like 2 weeks and get it out of your fucking system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think that's one he's going to have some regrets about.
This is the last thought. You like the way the new M5 looks. My dad loves the way the new M5 looks.
I don't know what it is. The wagon?
Yeah, he loves the wagon.
Are you talking about the
no, just
M5
in general, the M5 wagon or M5.
I think we talked about this already. It's you understand what BMW is, and that is they are not a performance car company. So what are they doing? They're throwing the kitchen sink at these cars. They're throwing hybridization, basically electrification, like it's like a
To
full
keep it
EV.
around, to keep it around.
To have like a beast V8, a great transmission. It just is the ways.
Of course, Bob.
It weighs as much as 2 cars, and what are you going to do with it? You know, so you have all this power. You can plug it in and charge it and drive as an EV. It's like it's a very confused car that is very, very expensive. So what are you going to do with it? You know, this becomes the problem with a car like this is it's trying to do everything, and it's not particularly going to be great as a performance car. It's not going to be great as the ultimate luxury car, but it sure as hell is cool. Like, I don't care about the weight just for a minute. Just think about it is a cool car. And if you're willing to separate your money to have a cool car, that's what it achieves.
I hope it rides better than the old M5.
I would hope so.
M5 Comp at least. I hope it rides better. I don't care that it's slower. And to BMW's point, you and we've done a lot of track days. How many M5s have you seen in a track day?
You're never tracking it. It's stupid. That's what I'm saying. Probably 9. I'd be shocked. I'm sure that 9 out of 10 owners would never plug it in. Like, I've heard this from the European counterparts, is that most of the customers who buy PHEVs never plug it in to charge it in the European market. I feel like even less would do it here because you're buying a V8, like supercar sedan thing. Are you really going to care about charging it? I don't know. It's a weird car. And then you're sacrificing its performance from having a weight that is catastrophic to consumables. You know, what are you going to do? Tires every 5,000 miles on this thing? Probably, if not more. So it's I like it, but I would like it just to drive it for like 5 days and be done with it forever. You know.
We'll see. I'm holding out thought. Chris Harris said this recently. He said it in the M2 video, and I watched his podcast he did with Rogan. He said the thing about weight, and I know you disagree with him, and I've mixed feelings on this argument. Weight is just a number if you can't feel it.
I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree.
Unless you're on track.
Well, I'm sorry. I disagree with it completely. I think you can hide weight, but the complication of hiding weight makes the car more complicated and heavy. So how do you hide weight in a modern car? You add weight to it with all the electromechanical systems to hide it all. So you're just perpetuating the problem to make the car's weight disappear by adding more. So
but if it's just a straight car, what does it matter?
I think the efficiency thing is going to come into play, right? Like right now, if people don't care about getting 17, 16 miles per gallon and have a V8, plus having an electric drivetrain that you don't really care about, like these are the things that I'm saying is these cars are so big and so heavy because they're adding more to it to make them feel better in different ways. It's so convoluted. Like it's so convoluted and pointless that and it's not just that. It's back to that discussion. Like how much are you spending on tires? How much are you spending on brakes?
You have $140,000 to buy on a
but
depreciating asset.
Not just those. We're talking about smaller cars too, right? Like your smaller sports cars are now becoming overladen with all of this stuff, and they're having to add more power to make up for the fact that it has more weight. Hence, now you're adding more power. Now you're having to add more systems to keep that in check. I mean, it's this vicious cycle that we're in performance cars, and I don't agree with it. I think the weight hurts it. I feel like these companies need to figure out a way to get out of the cycle they're in.
So I drove the G87 when we did that test, the old M2 versus the new M2. We put them all on the same tire. You remember that? The G87, I didn't feel like I noticed the weight so much. I noticed the vagueness of like the brake pedal feel and some of that. But you know, on the street, I didn't feel like you noticed a big difference. I don't think it was physically a bigger car.
Well, here's a good one. We both drove this car, the LC500, which we talked about a lot in here. The LC500, we both agree, is really fun. You can spin it sideways, you can do all this stuff, and then what happens when you drive it hard? Your tires are gone in 2 or 3 times faster than another car. Your brakes are gone and they no longer work. Like all of these things that you can't control the physics, even though the electromechanical systems are making it feel nimble, all these other things are affected. Now you have to have heavier motor mounts and like anti-vibration motor mounts and all these other things to control and control all this weight that are in these cars.
That is a problem exclusively for the track, though. I think for a street car, you won't notice.
I think it's a problem for the street too. I really do think it's a problem for the street. you know, like that X7, one of the reasons why I don't want to keep it is it just literally tires go away on it. You know, 22s, 21s, 20s that are becoming more common, they're $500 a tire. For what? I'm going in a straight line and they're going away. Why? Because we're talking about 5,000-pound cars. You know, these things are all. And the other part is, you know, we joked around a long time ago, like 10 years ago, how the ball joints and all this stuff get eaten through on Wranglers and Super Duties, these heavy-duty trucks because of all the weight. So now all of these components are being upsized on EVs, heavier cars. If you look at a knuckle on a 2025 M5 versus a knuckle from 10 years ago, it looks like a truck suspension. You know, everything is getting bigger and bigger to support these weights, and I don't think it has to be this way. I just think it's become the philosophy, and I think BMW is going to have to look at this because they're going to, engineering wise, they can't be looking at this weight number and being like, people know. Did we cross the line?
Your mic's about to die, so I'm going to answer these 2 last questions, and then we're going to get out of here.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. It's a valid thought.
I mean, I know it costs money to make them lighter, too. It's just easier to add the weight.
Thoughts on the 2 GR curls that caught fire? Dakota, any issues with yours? My bumper pops off in the front. It randomly smells like hydraulic fluid. It's been that way since nearly the beginning. You're going to see all of this in a video that's coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know how I saw the video, and I told Jack I saw the video about the guy driving with his dash cam where the car just spontaneously combusted. And, you know, I don't know. Like, I think certain cars have these problems. I don't know if it's an epidemic, but my guess is it's like these one-off cars.
And Toyota handled it the worst way possible.
Yeah, well, that's the bigger issue.
Jiggles, thank you for the $5. I paid off a 240i Vert. Should I keep it, tune it, and make more power, or do I sell it and buy a Porsche? The Porsche will hold its value way better than your 240i Vert, but it's going to have a way different experience. You'll be going to an old car. I think the 997 will hold its value, where the 240 will continue to go down, if that helps you out at all.
What's the last part of his statement?
To park my money.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Well, with all of that,
I know Jack needs to get home. His teddy bear has been waiting for him.
Yeah, Mr. Watson, my dog.
So obviously, thank you everybody for spending this time and spending the 3 hours with us, and to all those people that have commented and followed and obviously donated to ask questions, including the Patreons. We really appreciate it. If you're not on Patreon, you know,
we will keep this stream on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll keep this stream on YouTube, and we'll keep it on Patreon. If you want to support us on Patreon, that's the place to keep some of this going. But yeah, again, is there anything else you want to follow up, Jack? Or are you good?
We're good. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thanks everybody.